and sisters, get your cocktails ready. It is time for the Old Humble Happy Hour.
Looking a little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Get yours today, indeed. Sorry, I had to step away from the studio for a brief second there. Well, we got everything going. I am the Old Humble guy. This is the Old Humble Distilling Company's Wednesday happy hour. How long were we down on that? Sorry about that, guys. I thought I had timed my constitutional break there better, but I didn't. I'm the Old Humble guy. This is the Old Humble Distilling Company. I didn't even turn my light on. Man, I am all out of sorts tonight. Let's get that going. There we go. And my hippie light. Get that going too. All right. Let me turn this off here. I got a window open that needs to close. Tonight we're going to be talking about age statements of whiskey and whether they matter, what's important about them, what's not important about them. Where's my, what they tell us, what they don't tell us, all that fun stuff. And we're going to do a deep dive. We're going to talk in depth about the age statements on whiskeys. Where is, be right back. Yep, that me? Nope, wrong picture. There I am. All right, sorry, this has been kind of a shit show to start. I apologize, but let's get our opening shot. I've been a little bit discombobulated. I've had a lot of work to do today. With the build out, talking to the electricians, doing all the stuff we need to do, planning a party for Friday, for which we're not going to have a DJ because the DJ is backed out. The DJ that I booked 3 months ago is backed out. And I don't know if I can get another one by Friday. Jesus. Anyway, that's not your problem, though. It's happy. Let's have it. Cheers, guys. Have a drink. Let's cheers. Be awesome to each other, etc., etc., etc. Opening shots are my favorite. What a way to start a show. Okay. What are we talking about today? What's new in the news? We'll get to that in the Old Humble After Hours. This is the way the show goes. We do Old Humble Happy Hour. We talk about our whiskey topic. We talk about whatever topic we're going to talk about. We've talked about giants. We've talked about Sasquatch. Have I talked about pyramids? I don't think we've talked about the pyramids. Pyramids would be a good topic to talk about, probably. We've talked about Aging zones, we talked about cocktails of all types of cocktails. We've talked about several different cocktails over the months and years. We've talked about all kinds of shit, nonsensical stuff, sensical stuff. But tonight we're going to talk about actual whiskey content stuff. We're going to talk about actual stuff that actually matters. Well, actually matters in the whiskey talk world. Actually matters in the whiskey YouTube world. Actually matters in the whiskey world in general. We're going to talk about whiskey aging statements and whether or not they even matter. Whether or not they tell us what we think they tell us. Because that's that's an important kind of thing. Because you look at Scotch that's 15 years or 20 years or 25 years, or bourbon that's 25 years, or bourbon that's 8 years, or bourbon that's 4 years, bourbon that's 3 years, bourbon that's 6 months, 9 months, 12 years. Scotch that's 6 years, 12 years. Why don't they have any Scotch that's only aged 3 years? Oh, they do. You don't really get a hold of that Scotch. 20 years, 15 years, 18 years. What does that tell us? What does it just naturally does it naturally track that 19-year-old Scotch is better than 12-year-old Scotch, is better than 6-year-old Scotch, is better than 7-year-old Scotch? Or 7-year-old is it worse than 7? Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. Does it track? No. I've had a 16-year-old Scotch that I absolutely hated from the same distillery, and their 12-year-old Scotch was way better. But it didn't have necessarily anything to do with the age. What did it have to do with Old Humble Guy? I'll get to that. Calm down. Chill out. I'll get there. I've talked in length previously about aging zones and how the aging zones can be different and have different effects on whiskeys. For example, Kentucky and Texas. I've talked at length about the differences between Kentucky and Texas. Kentucky has about 6 months of aging time in a given 12-month period, while Texas has 9 months of aging time in a given 12-month period. There is a period of rest and a period of age, and a period of rest and a period of age for all the whiskeys. And there's questions, and true empirical results can be determined about whether or not those resting periods and aging periods matter as much. If the resting period matters as much as the aging period, does the whiskey do stuff during the resting period? Does the barrel do stuff during the resting period? What goes on during the process of resting and aging? Basically, the aging period for the whiskey is the period of time when the temperature is above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That is when the whiskey is actively interacting with the barrel and actively picking up flavor and color. I guess it would be good to start from the beginning. What does the barrel do? The barrel provides 100% of the color and about 60% of the flavor of the whiskey. So, all things being equal, you have mash bills the same, latitude's the same, altitude's the same, barrel size is the same. All things being equal, all variables removed from the equation. The age in the barrel, the time in the barrel will tell you that the whiskeys are different. They'll tell you about the differences between the whiskey. This has been aged longer. This has been aged less long. They both came from the same place. They both came from the same latitude. They both came from the same climate zone. They both came from the same altitude. They both had the same mash bill. Everything's the same. They come from the same distillery, the same distiller, the same stacks, the same everything. The only thing different is the barrel. Time in the barrel. The time in the barrel. That's the only thing different. Then it'll tell you something. But if you change even one of those variables, you're changing the whiskey. You change the distiller, you change the stack, you change changing the distiller, changing the columns. That's not going to change a huge amount because you're still going to get a clear, flavorful alcohol, but mostly unflavored. It's going to taste like alcohol. 40% of its flavor is going to come from the alcohol, the grains, in the water. Most of it's going to come from the water. Um, so all things being equal, the barrel's going to tell you something. But if you change any of those variables, you move it to a different climate, move it to a different altitude, different latitude, different longitude, even because it's going to be a different climate zone at a different longitude. You move it to a different temperature range, a different type of wood, a different humidity, a different barometric, anything. Change the variables, change the size of the barrel, change the mash bill going into the barrel. That is going to materially affect the flavor of your whiskey. And now, just looking at age, 5 years to 5 years, 6 years to 6 years, 10 years to 10 years, 20 years to 20 years, is not going to mean anything. It's not going to mean anything unless you know any of those. So Kentucky whiskey at 5 years is not the same as a Texas whiskey at 5 years, is not the same as a Scotch at 5 years, is not the same as a Colorado whiskey at 5 years. None of those are the same. A 35-gallon barrel and a 50-gallon barrel, both at 5 years, are not going to taste the same. One of them is going to be aged significantly more by the barrel in that same amount of time. Going to a lower latitude, a hotter climate, a more humid environment versus a drier environment, now you're going to affect the flavor of your alcohol. The barrel is going to do different work to the alcohol. The barrel is going to change, is going to age it in a different way. And aging it in a different way will materially affect the flavor of your alcohol. And it's the science of the thing. The different atmosphere, the different, the hotter the climate is, the longer your aging time. The longer your aging time, the more the barrel is going to interact with the whiskey. The more the barrel interacts with the whiskey, the more months of aging you get out of a given 12-month period. So, like I was saying earlier, in Texas, we have 9 aging months, 9 or 10 aging months down here on the Gulf Coast of Texas versus up in Louisville, Colorado, for example, where they have only 6 aging months out of a 12-month period. So, of those 6 aging months versus our 9 aging months, 10 aging months, if you age the whiskey, if all things being equal, 50-gallon barrel, same mash bill, same everything, you put it down in Texas, you put it up in Kentucky, the 2 different aging periods, your 3-year whiskey in Texas is going to taste much more mature, much longer aged than a 3-year whiskey in Kentucky. A 3-year whiskey in Texas is going to taste more like a 5-year whiskey in Kentucky, from Kentucky, because our 3 years of aging, 30 months, it takes them 5 years to get 30 months in Kentucky. So we're going to get more barrel flavor, more wood flavor into our bourbon in a shorter amount of time. And a good distiller will note the temperature in his rickhouse and pay attention to that sort of thing and know when it went in. And they'll kind of monitor temperatures over the course of the month and over the course of the weeks, over the course of the months, and know which months that they're getting aging out of, especially in the winter months. Because we'll be able to check off on in like December, like it didn't age at all in December, it didn't age at all in January, it didn't age at all in February, and then we got 4 days in February, and then 6 days in the beginning of March, and then the rest of March, the last half of the month is fine, and then it just we're good from April forward. It's 50 degrees and above from April, May, June, July, August, September, October. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, into November. That's a solid 8 months. In December, we're going to have half the month of December that's above 50 degrees. Most of January is going to be out. Most of February is going to be out. And then half the month of March and onward for the rest of the year. And that is how we get our 10 months of aging. We get a solid 10 months of aging, 9 or 10 months of aging out of our 12 months of the year. And that's the period when we're not going to get as much done. Parts of December, most of January, most of February, and parts of March. It depends on how late in December we still have mild temperatures and how early in January or how early in March we start to get our springtime temperatures. And then we're going to have our full 10 months, or 9 months at least, and up to 10 months. But in Kentucky, no, they don't get that. In Scotland's even worse. In Scotland, they may get 4, 5, 4 or 5, and not even 6. So their 25 years in Scotland is not the same as 25 years in Kentucky, and it's certainly not the same as 25 years in Texas. Hell, I don't even think we've had any distilleries for 25 years in Texas. But yeah, when it comes to age statements, absolutely 100% means something, but only if all things are equal to compare them to. Only if all things are equal to compare. If you change any of the other variables, mash bill, climate, temperature, aging zone, etc., 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 you have changed the style and texture of your whiskey, and it's not going to be the same. So there you are. So there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Is this thing on? Am I broadcasting? I'm never quite sure if I've successfully gone on the air. I'm never quite sure. But I can, I can check my analytics and see. But I haven't looked at my analytics yet to see if I'm actually streaming right now. But it looks like I am, so we're good. If you got any questions, I mean, I'll kick it over to the Old Humble After Dark in just a few minutes. But if you got any questions about age statements or the way whiskey works, the way the distillation process, the way the aging process, the way any of it works, I'm happy to answer them for you. I'm here for the next 30 minutes or at least. I'm gonna wrap it up at 11 unless we got more to talk about till midnight. This has been a crazy week. This has been a very busy week. This homecoming week. There's homecoming week at the high schools. We've got games and shows and all kinds of other stuff that we've been working on. We got our build out that we're working on. We've got you've seen the shows from the distillery where we've been building out the walls and building out the tasting room, and we put in the ceiling, we put in the walls. We're getting the electrical put in. We're getting everything done, and it's going to be epic when it's finished. I hope we can get it finished in time for our big party on Friday, but I don't think it's actually going to happen. We're going to have the thing finished on Friday. We may have a crew in there tomorrow putting in the electrical outlets and stuff, but I'm not going to hold my breath about that. Because if I hold my breath about that, I very well might pass out from asphyxiation. So we're not gonna do that. I do want to give a shout out to our 2,470. I think we're at 72 subscribers. This was up from 2,469 this afternoon, and up from last week when I think last week we were at 2,440 something. So mad props to our new subscribers. Thanks for joining the party. Thanks for coming to join us. Thanks for being awesome to each other and to us and to everyone else. I really do have a lot of other stuff to do. We might cut this show short tonight. I might have to cut the show short tonight. I don't want to. I might have to. I've got other stuff to do. But I do want to tell you, I do have a confession to make to my brothers and sisters here on the Whiskey Wednesday Happy Hour, the Whiskey Night Wednesday night happy hour show. I have probably made the worst mistake that I've made in a long time today. I voluntarily chose to get into an argument with a boomer via email. And not just any boomer, mind you, it's a church boomer. The worst kind of boomer. Because these are the type of people who are so arrogant and nasty. They think they're saving the world and they think that their way is the only way to save the world. And they're going to make you do their way. This is gonna be fun. I shouldn't have engaged, but I did. I uh I let it happen. I let it go. I got involved and I got engaged and I shouldn't have. But I'm going to let Grace take over from here forward. I've given them an opportunity to back out, to end their uh tirade. It's one of those people like I see you're gonna have the last word, and then they don't shut up. You've seen them on Facebook, on Twitter, on all they're arguing back and forth, and you're like, look, yelling at me on email is not a way to get me to do what you. It's not gonna accomplish what you think it's gonna accomplish. You're like, well, I see you have the last word, so and you're like, you know what? Nobody's forcing you to be here, and then they're back. And they keep coming back and they keep coming back. Like, I thought you said I was going to have the last word, but it's fine. I'm trying to be graceful. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be kind. I don't have anything against these people. I don't have anything against this person individually. This person is a nice person. Seems to be a nice person. Isn't showing it. Isn't showing herself to be a nice person. But I don't need this kind of headache in my life. I don't need this kind of headache in my life. But I volunteered to have this kind of headache in my life. So it's my responsibility to have this kind of headache in my life. And I'm going to continue to have this headache. Because I have work to do. I have a mission to accomplish. I have tasks to perform. And we are going to perform these tasks and perform this mission. And we're going to do the things that we have to do in order to make sure that the deck chairs on the Titanic are properly organized and aligned. So that we can find the bodies when they go and see the ship, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I really don't. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. It's all going to work out in the end. It's all going to be for the best. It's going to work out in the end, and it's going to be for the best. I firmly believe that. So, cautionary tale, cautionary warning, cautionary advisory to the rest of you fine folks out there in whiskey happy hour world. Avoid conversations in general with boomers, but certainly avoid email arguments with boomers, especially church boomers. They are convinced that they're right and they are convinced that they know how to do things, even though what they have done is literally ruin everything they touch. Can we talk about that again? Is it too soon to talk about boomers and how they've literally ruined every goddamn thing they've touched in the world? How everything, literally everything they've done. They were and don't tell me that they did civil rights, because they didn't do civil rights. While they were out marching for civil rights, their parents were the ones passing the civil rights legislation. They're not the ones who did environmental protection acts. They're not the ones who did the EPA. Their parents did the EPA. Nixon signing the EPA into law, and his Congress and his Senate passing those bills. Those were World War II vets. Those were the silent generation guys, the greatest generation guys, and the silent generation guys before them. They didn't do the EPA. They didn't do civil rights. They didn't do voters' rights. Voters' rights, again, while they were marching for voting rights, their parents were the ones, the World War II vets, were the ones passing voter rights. While their parents were the ones, and their grandparents were the ones who did Medicare and expanding, and their parents were the ones who expanded Medicare for the population. When the boomers got into power, they worked tirelessly for 40 years to restrict, constrict, and reduce Medicare and Medicaid benefits. the growth of the unions, fair employment, the growth of the middle class. That wasn't the boomers. That was their parents, the World War II generation, the World War I generation, the greatest generation, the silent generation. Those were the guys who came in and made sure that the unions were strong and that the unions, they fought for union work, for union equity, and for union acknowledgement. They fought for union jobs. They fought for middle class jobs. They fought, literally fought, in some cases, the U.S. military, National Guard, the Pinkerton Security Service. They fought these guys for that stuff. They fought for your 40-hour work week, for your weekends off, for your holiday pay, and for your overtime. They fought for that, literally shed blood for that, so that the boomers could spend the next 40 years eroding all of that. They didn't fight. They didn't fight. They didn't work. They didn't do the things that their parents handed them all of this stuff. The GI Bill, that was for World War II vets coming home who made boomers happen. The GI Bill that paid for college. The land grant universities that were established all across the country that these people flooded into in order to get their education after they came home from the military. The same college grants, the same benefits that their parents had, the boomers took advantage of and went to college and got their education. The same colleges that they then fought tirelessly to restrict government funding to, so that the public education could be privatized and public funding could be privatized and public loans could turn into private loans and saddle the nation with the greatest debt crisis we have ever faced. Greater college debt is even greater than debt in the 1920s. Consumer debt from the 1920s on a per capita basis, adjusted for inflation. True story. The boomers have ruined mass public education on the collegiate level, the secondary level. They've ruined mass public education on the primary and secondary level. Primary level, K through 12. Vouchers, testing, standardized testing, vouchers, merit-based raises for teachers when the merit is how well the students do on standardized tests, not how well they comprehend the material that they're expected to understand. It doesn't matter if little Jimmy is reading on a 8th grade level, as long as he can pass his STAR test, he can graduate. Doesn't matter. He doesn't need to read on a high school graduate level. He doesn't have to read on a high school graduate level. He just has to be able to pick which multiple choice question is the correct, which multiple choice answer is the correct answer to the question. So let's teach him test taking techniques. Let's forget the fact that they've ruined absolutely everything that they've touched, including but not limited to the church, of which they are still leaders. Let's just set that aside for a minute. Let's just set that aside. They possess within them a sense of unearned entitlement. And it's that sense of unearned entitlement that you argue against every time you risk arguing against every time you have a conversation with them. True story. True story, because they know everything. They know absolutely everything. They know everything without even asking a question. They just know. And God forbid you point out the fact that they didn't even bother asking, because they just know. Fuck these people. But seriously, that is not the principal topic on which I wanted to talk about tonight. It's just what's on my mind. what I wanted to talk about tonight, what I'm going to continue to talk about tonight, and what I am talking about tonight is, and will continue to be, um, age statements on whiskey bottles and whiskey barrels. So again, as I was saying before, well, I'm going to reiterate. I'm going to reset. We're going to come back to basics. We're going to come back to first principles. Get the tirade out, flush it out. We're good to go. Jesus Christ, the leadership that Reagan presented to defeat the Soviet Union, he wasn't a boomer. He was a World War II vet. George W. Bush, World War II vet. Those two guys who teamed up to defeat the Soviet Union over the course of 12 years and all of the social ills that flooded in behind Ronald Reagan, the fucking boomers couldn't even defeat the Soviet Union. They had to pick up one of their parents. They had to go back to their parents and say, "Hey, mom and dad," or dad and dad, dad and other dad, "Hey, come and take care of those Soviets for me because I can't handle it." They kicked out one of the finest human beings ever to be president. Kicked him out of office because he national malaise, blah blah blah. He was not a great president. He was a good person, but he was not a great president. Let's be clear about Jimmy C. There, he had a bunch of good policies. I mean, there's a good what if there. What if Jimmy Carter had been president during the AIDS epidemic? What if Jimmy Carter had been what if Jimmy Carter had continued? What if the monetary policy that was put in place, the Volcker rule that was put in place under Reagan, what if that was put in place under Jimmy Carter? What if Jimmy Carter had gotten, um, what's his name? Volcker. What's his first name? I can't remember. Ben Volcker? No, it wasn't Ben. Martin, Mike, Mitch, Jim? Was it Jim Volcker? Anyway, what if the Volcker rule had been put in place? What if Jimmy Carter had said, look, we got to break the back of inflation. It's going to cause a recession for 6 months, but let's do this. Let's break the back of inflation. If the monetary policy under Reagan had been instituted, but not the tax policy under Reagan, if we still had respect for unions, if the money flow had not continued to go to the middle class and equitably throughout society, if the money flow had continued to do that and we had established a monetary policy that fought back against inflation instead of the monetary policy that we'd always had where, make more money, we spend more money so we make more money, and then we release the money, then we spend more money and make more money, and that inflationary cycle with the monetary policy. If the monetary policy had been or is it a requirement that the monetary policy that we did, low inflation, low inflation monetary policy, does that naturally go hand in hand with a trickle down economic philosophy? Or can you do a low interest rate monetary policy without a trickle down economic plan? Because it's not the supply side thing. I mean, the supply side fed into the monetary policy. The supply side economics fed into that low interest rate monetary policy. Man, I'm getting nerdy talking about this shit. This is shit that goes through my mind when I'm on my long 4-hour drives to Dallas and my 6-hour commutes to and from Austin. This is the shit that goes through my mind. Like if we did the supply side low interest rate monetary policy, supply side economics and low interest rate monetary policy without the trickle down tax policy, would we have enjoyed the same economic growth? Or would it have been an inequitable, like are those pieces of the puzzle that just don't work? And I'm sure this is an economic study that's been done, and I just don't know about it. But I don't know. Anyway, whiskey content. Back to the whiskey content. I keep getting sidetracked because this is just shit that's been on. This is probably a conversation that's best suited for like a day in the life thing when I'm like bottling whiskey, and I'll be bottling up tomorrow, so I'll probably do another day in the life tomorrow. This may be on my mind tomorrow, but talking about talking about that stuff is interesting. It's theoretical to me because I'm not like I'm sure there's actual academics and actual studies and actual information to feed off of this, but these are the different pieces of the puzzle that I've always been curious about it, and I'm not well versed in, and I'm not academically. Um, I haven't studied this. I'm not by any stretch. I mean, I'm more of a student of history than I am a student of the economics. I don't know the answer to that question. Uh, but there was a three-part economic policy in the 80s. It was trickle-down economics, low interest rate, and supply side. Trickle-down tax policy, low interest rate monetary policy, and supply side economics to support the low interest rate economic policy. And the trickle-down economics or trickle-down tax policy basically meant that all of the free floating money that was out there was being soaked up by the wealthy. It was being or aggregated to the upper end. That's what trickle down encouraged: a concentration of wealth and a concentration of funds, money, monetary currency to the super rich and the super big corporations. So then that money could go to the banks, and the banks could do stuff with it and fund, the monetary system around the world, but also so that it would come out of circulation. Because if you're not spending the money, then it's not leading to inflation, and it's going into investments, and it's growing the economy through investments, but not through work and not through growth and not through actual productivity. So then your pay flattens out. It doesn't go up like it used to. It flattens out. So as that pay flattens out, we got to make sure the prices don't rise. So if prices don't rise, we've got to make sure that we have an adequate supply. So production goes to the cheaper inputs, and we can produce more and more and more and more and more and more and more stuff. So we're having to produce 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 units of frying pans to go into a container to ship to Walmart, so that the prices never go up, low price guarantee, so that you and who is not getting a raise doesn't have to worry about prices going up and pacing you out of being able to afford frying pans, because frying pans are being made more and more and more abundant at a cheaper and cheaper and cheaper rate. Yeah, they're cheaper frying pans, but there's a trillion of them. And now you can get 3 for the price of 1. So if one wears out, you have 2 backups. And it didn't cost you any more. In fact, it cost you a third of what the first one would have cost you, which is great because you didn't get paid more, not at least not significantly more. We held the line on wages. The wages stayed flat. 2% a year, 3% a year. Wages went up remarkably slowly. But that was okay because inflation also went up remarkably slowly. You got paid 3%, inflation went up 2%. You were winning. It's like you got a 1% raise. As opposed to the other way, when inflation goes up 6% and you only get paid 4%, then it felt like you get a 2% cut. Anyway, that's a topic for tomorrow. I'm going to get sidetracked on this shit all night. That's a topic for tomorrow. Y'all got to get in chat and send me some fucking questions, because if I'm going to get in my head and get sidetracked on this, how boomers fucking ruined everything for everybody, for the next 3 generations of everybody. They ruined shit for their kids, the Gen Xers. They ruined shit for the Gen Y and the Ys and Zs, the millennials. They ruined shit for everybody going forward. Everything they touch, everything they were handed: equal rights, civil rights, voting rights, uh, public college, public high school, public middle school, public primary school, public secondary school. They have ruined access to health care. They have ruined access to health, Social Security. Social Security's gone, the retirement age for Social Security has gone up from 55 and a half to 65 and a half. And it's going to go up to 70. Unless the Democrats have something to say about it, they can hold the line on that shit. They have ruined literally everything. Environmental protections, climate. They've ruined Uh, unions. Name something. Name something. Anything. Anything. The boomers touched it. The boomers ruined it. Name something the boomers did that they didn't mess up. Name anything. Anything over the last almost 50 years now, 45 years, that the boomers touched that they didn't ruin. Hell, they even fucked up disco. They ruined disco. Because disco was a thing in the early 70s among the black and gay subcultures, club subcultures. But when it took off in the late 70s, when it turned into a white thing with Saturday Night Fever and the disco movies, and it blew up in 1978, it was a white thing for only like a year, 2 years. And then all the rock and roll stations started switching over to disco. Mm-hmm. Brought that black culture and gay culture into the mainstream. White straight men were expected to dance in order to pick up women. Oh man. Oh. Oh no 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 no. No. You want me to dance like a black person? You want me to dance like a gay person? I'm gonna do that queer shit. Yeah, it was a rock and roll station's DJ that got fired because their station switched over to disco, who launched the whole Death the Disco night, the start of the riot in Chicago, I think it was, when they blew up all the disco records and did all that shit, started the whole fucking riot. And that was the night disco died, 79, I think it was, when disco died. It was 1 year, maybe 2 years, tops, with white straight cis boomer men, and they fucking killed disco. And then disco switched and went. The disco bands switched and went back to metal hair bands. Yeah, Poison. 5 years earlier, Poison would have been a disco band. It would have been heavier on synth and more dancey. All those bands that were going to be disco, they turned into hair bands and metal bands. Rock and roll was back. And that's one of the reasons why music in the early 80s is so weird, is because the stations were all switching over to disco, and then they had a backlash, and then they just didn't have a thing to switch to. It went from disco to we don't know what, and that's when you had the heavy synth metal rock weirdness. I mean, Van Halen would have been a disco band 3 years earlier. Pretty wild to even think about David Lee Roth as a disco singer. Europe, the heavy synth. They'd have been a disco band. They were ABBA. ABBA? ABBA. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Listen to the music from the early 80s, the late 70s. Kiss! For crying out loud. Kiss! The face paint, the big hair, the ridiculous costumes. Listen to the music. Those mofos were disco rock stars. They were heavy metal disco. They sound like a disco band. But, yeah, we don't dance to Kiss. We're straight men. We don't do that shit. Homophobia and racism killed disco. The whole genre of music. A whole landscape of music and clubs and entertainment killed off by homophobia and racism from the late 70s and early 80s. Thanks, boomers. Fucking pricks. Anyway, all that to say, don't get in an internet fight with a boomer. I made my mistake. I'm embroiled in it. I'm going to extricate myself from it. But I still have a mission to accomplish, and I'm going to accomplish my mission. And it has nothing to do with going tit for tat with this stupid boomer. This person can be as nasty as they want to be. Sit there and stare at me like they just sucked on a lemon or a lime all they want. I do not care. And that is care with 2 syllables. Care. I do not care. But what I will say is, and I will maintain this to the end of my days, you don't have to be here. The door's over there. You don't have to be here. Bye. Cheers. Have a great afternoon. Not my problem. I have a mission. I have a task to accomplish. I'm going to accomplish that task. Done and done and done and done. So, there you go. Don't ever, if you have the choice, if you have the opportunity to not do so, choose to not do so when it comes to getting in an argument, any kind of argument, with a fucking boomer. They are perpetually wrong. Yeah, like, you know how when we were kids, they would always say, speak to your elders, ask them advice. They have good advice on how to do things. They have wisdom of their years. They are wise beyond their days. They've seen things and they've done things. That does not hold true with the boomers. That does not hold true with the boomers, because literally every fucking thing they touched, they ruined. Literally everything they touched. Literally everything, they ruined it. Name a program, name a policy, name an event, name anything. Companies, institutions, they've taken gold and turned it into lead. And unfortunately, that alchemy doesn't go in the other direction. You can't take lead and turn it into gold. You can only take gold and turn it into lead. You can only ruin shit. You can't unruin shit. You've got to rebuild from scratch. Once you've ruined it, you've got to rebuild it. That's it. That's all there is to it. What is that box? I have a box of something. Oh, that's what my mug came in. I have a mug over here. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah, here it is. I should be drinking out of my mug. Proper product placement, right? I should be drinking out of my mug. Cheers. So back to the original topic. Because I did say whiskey content. It says it right there on the opening screen. Whiskey content. If I move my camera here, it says whiskey content right there. Whiskey content. That's what we're in for today. I am down with whiskey content. What is my whiskey content today? Barrel information. What barrel information, old humble guy? Well, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. Glad to tell you. Can I run an ad? I'm going to run an ad real quick. We'll take a quick break. And we'll come back as we reset. Skadoosh. Did that work? Ads inserted. So, hey. Who's that? Mr. Jiggs is in the house. Cheers, Mr. Jiggs. I just inserted an ad. I'm going to find out what happens. Hey, HBO. I've got HBO on mine. I want to know what ads y'all get. If you got an ad, I want to know what ad you got. Because this is right at the top of the hour, 10:54. Right at the top of the hour, 10:54. That's when the ad came in. I got HBO. HBO Max. I'm going to support my sponsorship. HBO Max. Get a subscription to HBO Max so that you can see Game of Thrones, so that you can see Ballers, so that you can see other shows that are on HBO Max. I think HBO Max also gives you content from Cinemax because HBO and Cinemax are related, and you can get the content from those two as they merge together. Uh, so when I was a kid, we had to watch that stuff like because we didn't have cable, but you got a cable box, and the cable box would descramble the information as it came in and translate your show to what's on the screen. But we did not have a subscription to all of the channels. And if I remember correctly, it was 14 was HBO, 15 was Cinemax, 16 was Showtime, 17 was the movie channel, and 18 was the Playboy channel. I don't remember what 19, 20, 21. I don't know what those were. They were also scrambled, but they were not interesting. But I do remember what 18 was. 18 was the Playboy channel. And you could flip over to those channels and it would be all like squiggly lined and stuff. You couldn't really see it. You could discern it. You could every once in a while see a boobie. Like there's a boobie, there's a nipple. Oh my God, there's a nipple. And that's all you really needed as a 13-year-old boy. You could hear it. The audio wasn't scrambled, but the video was scrambled. You couldn't see it, but you could hear it. And I remember there was one game show that they had on the Playboy channel when I was a kid. And I know this was a game show because of the way it was set up and the way they were doing it. But what they would do is you would see the girls, and then they would go behind. They would bring out like a screen, and they would open up a panel of the screen, and then they'd shuffle the girls around behind the screen, and then you would have to identify who was who based on only their breasts, because the Playboy channel was classy. And then I think they also did it on only the butts. You could only identify them from the butts. What I thought as an older man now, I think a funny thing to do would be to show the women naked, fully naked, like head to toe, fully naked. Like you cannot see a shred of fabric adorning these women, right? And then they pull in the screen. The girls shuffle their position back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and now they open up a panel, and you have to identify the girl from her face. Yeah, right? That's the irony. That's the trick. That's the twist. You see the beautiful naked Playboy bunnies there in front of you on display. I was going to say splayed out, but they're not splayed out. They're on display on the stage right there. And then they're like, okay, you've had 30 seconds to look at our models. And the screen comes out. And they're like, okay, you're going to be asked to identify who's who. We have, I don't know, whatever, Candy, Jasmine, Amanda, Aretha, Jennifer, whoever the fuck these girls are. They're all Stephanie, whatever. You've got to identify who's who now. And then the screen comes down, it's just their face. Can you identify this naked beauty from just her eyes? Dickheads. As a kid, that never occurred to me. But as a grown up, that's a hell of a game show. That is a hell of a game show. Can you identify the 4 naked models from just no. Let's even go crazier. Let's go even crazier. They've got their buck naked beauties, right? 4 of them. 4 buck naked beauties. There they are. Bip, 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 bip. You're like, wow, gorgeous, beautiful, unbelievable. And then the screen comes out, they shift positions, whatever. And then the screen comes up, and you got to identify them by their feet. You don't even get to see their face. You don't even get to see their eyes. You don't get to see their hair. You just get to see their feet. Oh, you didn't care? You didn't notice that they were wearing shoes, huh? Asshole, asshole, asshole. Y'all are all fired. You lose the game. Bye. Maybe we'll do that at the distillery. A members only show. We'll do a members only show on YouTube. Speaking of members only, cheers, Mr. Jiggs. Ask any question you want. It's a wide open night. I guess I could reset the original topic, the aging topic, the whiskey age statements topic. I mean, I launched right into it, right at the 5-minute mark, 10-minute mark, whatever it was. But we'll recap. Age statements are meaningful for a bottle of whiskey, but an age statement does not convey value by itself. Is a 10-year-old bottle better than a 5-year-old bottle? Maybe. That's like asking if a well-done steak is better than a medium rare steak. No, but some people like well-done steaks. So despite empirical evidence and facts, let's not disparage their character, because they could be good people, even though they hate steak and they like to see it destroyed. But that said, 10 years does not necessarily mean better than 5 years. It means it's been more aged. It means it's been aged longer. Aged longer does not necessarily mean it's better. It just means it has more oaky flavor. It has more barrel flavor. It has more flavor coming from the wood. And the wood provides about 60% of the flavor of the whiskey. The longer it's in the barrel, the more intense that flavor is, and possibly even a higher percentage than 60%. It could be higher. It could be 75. And at some point, you're going to get a very highly concentrated flavor of whiskey, a barrel in your whiskey. At some point. But that is not the end-all, be-all of the age statement, because the age statement is only relevant, all things being equal, all other things being equal. So if you see an age statement that's 8 years and an age statement that's 15 years, but the origin of the whiskey is, one of them is Scotland and one of them is Kentucky. The 15 years in Kentucky may be aged longer empirically on the timeline, 15 years versus 8. It's 7 calendar years longer. But those 7 years were not created equal in Scotland. Those 15 years in Scotland do not mean the same thing as 8 years in Kentucky, because Scotland has between 4 and 6 good aging months every year. Kentucky has 6 or 7 good aging months every year. So Kentucky has 50% more aging months in a given 12-month period. 4 versus 6, 50%. Which means an aging statement for a bourbon that's 8 years old in Kentucky and a Scotch that's 15 years old from Scotland does not necessarily mean that it has 7 additional aging years. 15 years in Scotland is more like 4 calendar years, 4 calendar aging years. And 8 years, because it's, 3, more like 5 calendar aging years, because it's 4 months out of 15, which is roughly 1/4, a little bit more than 1/4. So it's maybe close to 5 years. Let's give them close to 5 years. 4.5, split the difference, 4.5 years. Versus the 8 years in Kentucky at 6 months a year, that's closer to 4 years. So the aging difference between a 15-year Scotch and an 8-year bourbon is really more like 6 to 12 months, not 7 years. And that's a very, very, very important distinction. Because when you talk about a 5-year bourbon or a 4-year bourbon that's aged in a 50-gallon barrel in Kentucky, you're talking about 2.5 years worth of aging time. Versus a 3-year bourbon from Texas that would have 27 months, which is about two and a quarter years of aging time. 2.25, roughly 2.25 years of aging time in that barrel in Texas versus 5 years would be 2.5. So at that point, you're talking about the difference is 3 months, 3 aging months of time between Texas and Kentucky, or 5 years in Kentucky, 3 years in Texas, or 18 years, or not 18. What would it be? 12 years, I believe, in Scotland, give or take, would be the equivalent. So it's not just the age statement that matters. It's also the location that matters. But then if you shrink the size of that barrel, a 35-gallon barrel is going to age about 60%, not 60%, about 160% faster than a 50-gallon barrel. So in a 35-gallon barrel, 3.5 years is equivalent to 5 years. In a, give or take, in a 25-gallon barrel, you've got 2.5 years is equivalent to 5 years. In a 5-gallon barrel, half a year is equivalent to about 5 years, give or take. 6 months is equivalent to about 5 years in a 5-gallon barrel, give or take. It's not, it depends on the months, because the summer months versus the winter months, December, January, February, you're not going to get the aging time that you're going to get in June, July, and August. You're just not going to get it. There's not a lot of whiskeys that are going to be able to pop out in January, unless they were put into the barrel in January the year before, because you're going to get all 6 of those months of aging time in the state of Texas. Now, that's different in Florida. That's going to be different in Southern California, West coastal California, where it's the San Francisco area, where it's that Mediterranean temperature, where it's like 70 degrees all year long, all the time. Wait, San Francisco is Northern California, right? I don't know California. I'm not well versed in my left coast geography. But I mean, a barrel that's aging in Death Valley is going to be drastically different than a barrel that ages in Sacramento, because the temperature swings, the temperature variations, going from 100 degrees to 50 degrees to 100 degrees to, I don't know how cold it gets in Death Valley in the winter, at night. I think it gets down below 30 degrees at night, doesn't it? But going from over 100 to down below freezing, over 100 to down below freezing, you get to damn near the evaporation point of that whiskey, and then you get damn near to the freezing point of the water every single day. This is why I want to send a barrel to space. This is why I want to do my space whiskey, because it's the variation of temperature, pressure, and humidity. Temperature, pressure, humidity. Those 3 things combined. The reduction of pressure and the reduction of temperature is going to cause the water to freeze, and then the alcohol is going to approach the vaporization level. And then as it vaporizes, it's going to get caught in the wood, and it's going to condense, and it's going to get stuck in the wood. And then as it comes back down into the atmosphere, it's going to come back out of the wood, and I think it's going to get a more intense flavor from the wood, because it was not just soaking into the wood, but it was evaporating and going into the wood. We're going to lose a tremendous amount of alcohol, but we're going to get a tremendous amount of flavor for the alcohol that's left. And that's going to be, that's going to make a fucking delicious alcohol. Space whiskey is going to be the bomb. Hopefully, only figuratively. But the conditions under which the alcohol is aged is a huge variance. If you know the size, if you only know the age statement, it doesn't tell you enough. You've got to know the age statement, you've got to know the size of the barrel, you've got to know the latitude, the longitude, the altitude, all of that stuff. And a lot of that stuff is helpful, just basically knowing where the distillery is, who the distillery is. They aged it in Texas, if they aged it in Indiana, if it was aged in Louisville, if it was aged in Louisville. Louisville and Louisville are two different places. Yeah, obviously they're two different places, but they're two different aging zones within the state of Kentucky. They are two different aging zones. They're very similar climates, but they're two different aging zones. And if you get 6 whiskeys that are within 50 miles of each other, their distilleries are within 50 miles of each other, you're going to have 6 whiskeys that kind of taste the same. Which is why most Kentucky, and I will die on this hill. I will 100% die on this hill. Most Kentucky whiskeys taste the same. They do on purpose. Their mash bills aren't drastically different. Their water isn't different. Their climate isn't different. They use the same barrel. The only difference for most Kentucky whiskeys is the number of years spent in the barrel. There's notable differences. Maker's Mark uses wheat, not rye. There's others that use 4 grains. There's some that use oatmeal. There's some that use, the variance in mash bills give you differences in flavors. By the way, you can buy one of these mugs. It's right there in the description of the show. Merchandise is down below. But all things being equal, the age statement matters. But change a variable, change the facts, change the findings. That was what they taught me in my business law class. Change the facts, change the findings. Change one variable from that mash bill. Change a variable from the distillation. Change a variable from the location of the distillery, the altitude, the geography, the aging zone, whatever it is that you change. The age statement no longer is an apples to apples comparison. 5 years is no longer 5 years. 10 years is no longer 10 years. Now you're looking at the number of months that it actually ages in an equivalent 50-gallon barrel. That's how you know. That's how you know. And there's a lot of people. This is one of the nuggets of knowledge I've learned over doing tastings for damn near 10 years now. There are a lot of people that come into tastings with preconceived notions. Wrong preconceived notions. Bless their sweet little ignorant hearts. Love them to death, but they're dumb as hell. You can't really fault people for being ignorant. You can fault people for being willfully ignorant, but you can't fault people for being ignorant. They just don't have the information. They don't have the knowledge. They've been given knowledge, but they haven't been given full knowledge. So I've learned grace over the years. I judge you. Don't get me wrong. I will judge the hell out of you for your bad whiskey choices. Especially if you taste it, you like it, and then you go get shit. You're like, oh man, that's really good. And then you go get Crown. Fuck you. Anyway. And a 6-pack of Coke. Like a dick. Anyway. All things being equal. The age statement makes a huge difference. All things being equal. But people come in with their preconceived notions. They come in with their notions, their ideas, that 10 is better than 5, that 8 is better than 6, that 19 is better than 12, whatever. The age statement makes a huge difference. That's what they think. So when you tell them full disclosure, you have the audacity to be honest. Six to 9 months in a 5-gallon barrel. Like 6 to 9 months. That's just baby. That's not barely enough time. How'd it get so dark in 6 months? You put coloring in it and flavor? Oh, I can really taste the caramel flavor. Yeah, there's no caramel flavor in my whiskey. But thanks for being an ignorant buffoon. And you get that every tasting I do. When I do my tastings for our straight whiskey, the purple label, I do my tasting for the straight whiskey. They're like, oh, it's really smoky. I can taste the rye. All right, so it's a lightly charred barrel. It's a used barrel, and there's no rye. But that's the palate that people bring. Tasting things is a mental exercise as much as it is a physical exercise. You will taste things that you bring to the party. Taste things that you bring in your own brain. If you're doing a tasting, if you're doing a sampling, if you're trying different whiskeys, it's best to try with an open mind. Purge what people have told you about whiskey. Oaky, grassy, leathery, smoky. Most of that stuff doesn't mean anything. A lot of people who say that stuff because they heard other people say that stuff and it doesn't mean anything. When you taste a whiskey, use your words. Your words, not Fred Minnick. Fred Minnick's a great guy. Don't use his words. Don't use Dustin's. Don't use Shane's. Don't use Billy's. Don't use Tommy's. Don't use Fred's. Don't use anybody else's words. Use your words. What does it taste like? It tastes like a kitty cat purring on my belly. It tastes like I one tasting note that I put in my notebook was this tastes like a kick in the nuts feels. It was not a good whiskey. Uh, I mean, for some people, oaky, smoky, leathery, all that bullshit means something. Grassy. Have you ever had grass? Like yard grass? What does grassy mean? It doesn't mean anything to most people. It means that somebody said rye tastes grassy, so it tastes grassy. Most people, that doesn't mean anything. Use your words. Paint a descriptive picture of what you feel and you taste when you drink your whiskey. Don't don't let other people decide what your whiskey tastes like. Your whiskey to you tastes like what you taste, what you feel, what you enjoy. Your whiskey, that's yours. It's your experience. It's your palate. It's your tongue. It's your nose. It's your whiskey. You experience it. You feel it. You enjoy it. That's what it's about. I don't know what got me onto that. No, but it's a very subjective. It's a very subjective thing. So to some people, 5 years may be better than 10 years. The age statements don't mean anything necessarily. You can find a sweet spot. I was saying before that there was a Scotch that I had where the 16-year-old was way, way worse. I hated it. Undrinkable versus the 14-year-old. And there was a reason for that. There was a reason for that. The 16-year-old was finished in a port cask. And I hate, absolutely hate port wine. I think it tastes like ass. I think it tastes like cough syrup. It tastes like bad memories from when I was a kid. It tastes like laying on the couch, watching The Price is Right, and throwing up into a trash can. That's what port tastes like to me. How's that for a description? How's that for a descriptive flavor of what port wine tastes like? It tastes like laying on the couch, watching The Price is Right, and throwing up again and again and again and again. That's what port wine tastes like to me. To me. Doesn't that taste like that to you? That's what it tastes like to me. It tastes like bad memories. Granted, after that experience, I did get 2 GoBots. I did. My mom said, you look so bad, you're feeling so bad. I wanted to get you something that made you feel better. Here's 2 GoBots that you can play with while you're sick tomorrow. Because I was not going to make it to school the next day. But the thing is, I was feeling a lot better the next day. I was just really weak. Anyway, but that Robitussin, cough syrup, whatever it was I was drinking, to try and to relieve the cough and settle my stomach. Whatever cold medicine that I was taking, I'm pretty sure I had the flu. Whatever medicine it was that I was taking had that cherry flavor, and the cherry flavor was very reminiscent to me of port wine. Every time I drink port wine, I remember that experience of that cherry cold medicine and The Price is Right with Bob Barker, the Showcase Showdown. I loved The Price is Right with Bob Barker. I loved it. That's what I watched as a kid, and it was fan. That I mean, as a when I got older, I would watch the when I would get sick, I would sit on the couch and just like cuddle up in a blanket and get nice and cozy on the couch, and then I would turn on Empire Strikes Back because it was a better movie than the other two, but it was also like kind of slow and boring. So I could fall asleep to it. I could still recite like word for word most of that movie because I watched it so many times as a kid and an adult. God, it's a great movie. The whole original trilogy is great, and I like the newest, the third trilogy. Not so much the original or the prequel trilogy. It was okay. It was okay, but it's there was a lot that could have been done with that wasn't done with that, and that's unfortunate. But anyway, I'm rambling. Back to rambling. Let's get back to the whiskey content. The port cask to me ruined a perfectly good scotch. So the 14 year was finished in like a Chardonnay, or it was either Chardonnay or a red wine, a Merlot red wine. And that's fine. Both of those options were tolerable. It was a great whiskey. The 14 was great whiskey, but the 16 was finished in a port cask. Port cask. The port tasted like vomit while I was watching The Price is Right. And I drank it and it had that finish to it. And like the scotch tasted like scotch, right? But the finish was was laying on a couch, being sick, watching The Price is Right, and getting a GoBot. That's what the 16 year tasted like versus the 14. The 14 was barely memorable. Barely memorable. It was only memorable in the context of the 16. If I hadn't had the 16 and been so violently disappointed in the 16-year scotch, I wouldn't have remembered the 14 at all. It would have just been another scotch. Another fine scotch. A good $60 bottle of scotch. That's it. More than I probably would have spent unless it was a special occasion. I was celebrating something because when I was getting my MBA, I would go and buy a bottle of scotch because I was either studying for a test or I passed a test. Like I got an A. Those were the two reasons I'd get a bottle of scotch. I got an A or I was studying. So when I say that out loud, I realize the only times that I got a scotch when I was getting my MBA is when I wanted scotch. Because there were only two circumstances that were happening when I was getting my MBA. I was studying for a test, or I had just taken a test and I got an A. So when I was drinking scotch when I was getting my MBA, the only times I would get scotch to celebrate or to study. And I was literally that was like I only get a bottle to celebrate, and today's a special occasion because it's Wednesday. It's the second Wednesday of the month. Celebrate with some scotch. Because literally every week I was studying for another test, and every week I had just finished a test and had gotten an A. So like the tests were like staggered, like every 3 weeks or something like that. So I was studying for a test the first week, or the third week. So I had just gotten an A the second week, or I had just gotten an A the fourth week. I just realized that. Like I never thought about that. That was literally when I would go to Specs. I'd go to Specs. I'm like, I just want a nice bottle of scotch because I'm gonna sit down. I'm studying tonight. I'm doing whatever project that I'm doing. I want a nice bottle of scotch so I can sit and I'd pour myself a glass of scotch and I would do my work. And then the next time I go into Specs, it was I got an A on that test. I'm gonna get a nice bottle of scotch. And nice was like $40 or $50 at the time. Like get a nice bottle of scotch. I'd pick myself up a bottle of scotch and I'd drink it over the course of the next week. And then the next week it'd be like, oh, got a bottle of got a bottle of scotch. I still got a bottle of scotch. I'll keep this bottle of scotch. But the week after that, it's like I'm studying for a test. I want a nice bottle of scotch. I'd probably buy 2 or 3 bottles a month. God damn, was I an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? See, I can stop whenever I want. Probably should do the sober November. Or it was sober October, wasn't it? I'm not doing that. Maybe sober December, sober January? What was it? Oh, that's what they do. They do sober January to give their liver a rest. Anyway. Fuck that. I make whiskey. I don't have to cater to anybody's sober months. Fuck those guys. Anyway, where were we? What was I talking about? Oh, unique flavors, unique tests. Unique flavors, unique tastes, whiskey content of barrels. So the age statement doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be better. The 16 wasn't better than the 14 by any stretch. And I even did a tasting with friends of one distillery's different offerings of 10, 12, 14, 16. And the consensus agreement was that the 14 was better than the 16 in this case, or was it the 12? The 12 was better. It was 10, 12, 14, 16. The 12 was better than the 10 or the 14 or the 16. The 12 was the best of the 4, but the 14 was a close second. And 10 and 16s were tied for third and fourth. But it was counterintuitive because the intuitive nature would have been 16's number 1, 14, then 12, then 10. But it was 12, and this was consensus. This wasn't me. This wasn't my preference. I don't think I liked any of them particularly well because I don't even remember the brand of scotch that we used that night. But the consensus was that it was 12, then the others. And Dustin's in the house. Cheers, Dustin. We're talking about whiskey content. We're actually talking whiskey content tonight, big guy. Top Shelf Dustin's in the house. Over there in chat, if y'all aren't watching. We're talking about whiskey content. We're talking about age statements, and that age statements are not necessarily indicative of quality, because all things being equal, age statements matter. All things being equal, age statement will not tell you that the whiskey's better. Age statement will simply tell you that it has more flavor from the barrel. All things being equal. But if you change a variable, you change the distillery, you change the location, you change the altitude, you change the latitude, you change even the longitude, you change the atmosphere, you change the temperature, you change anything. Change the mash bill. 5 years does not mean 5 years. It simply means this whiskey was in a barrel for 5 years. 5 years in Scotland is not the same as 5 years in Kentucky, is not the same as 5 years in Texas, is not the same as 5 years in Colorado, is not the same as 5 years in New Mexico, is not the same as 5 years in California. And if you have finishing barrels, if you have finishing styles, if you have aromatics that were put into the barrels, that changes fucking everything. You swap out the rye for wheat, changes everything. You swap out the size of the barrel, a 35-gallon barrel, 25-gallon barrel, 10-gallon barrel, 5-gallon barrel. It changes everything. Jesus Christ, 10 years in a 5-gallon barrel versus 10 years in a 50-gallon barrel? Totally different. 5 years in a 5-gallon barrel is like 50 fucking years. It's insane. Nobody does that. I'll switch over to the chat window so y'all can see who I am and what I am talking to. Boom, chat window. There we go, chat window. Oops, wrong. Oh, shit. Move that back over here. There we go. Stop. My computer's being dumb. Quit it. Okay, give me a second. I hit a button by accident. Boom. Boom. Boom, boom. There we go. Oh, damn it to hell. I think I might have just opened Discord. Fucking the boomer emailed me back. God damn it. Why are boomers like this? Why are they fucking like this? Jesus. All right, anyway. I'll get my chat window open in a second. There it is. My chat window's open. Location, barrels are aging. Change the floor. Change the barrel type. Change the grain of the tree. Yeah, exactly. Everything, all things being equal. All things being equal is the key here. With all things being equal, then the barrel statement matters. The age statement matters. If all you have is the age statement, though, that's not going to tell you as much information as you think. And it's certainly not going to be indicative of quality. Like I was saying just before you got here, me and some friends did a tasting because we were curious. There was a scotch that I was able to get my hands on that they had a 10, 12, 14, 16, all in the same store, all from the same distillery, all with the same mash bill, all with the same barrel, all the only difference was 2 years. And nothing was remarkable about this scotch. It was fine. But the consensus among me and 4 other people was that the 12 was better than the 10, but the 14 and 16 were not better than the 12. The 12 was better than all of them. 14 and 16 were better than the 10. The 10 was the least of the 3. But you got to know, it helps to know the distillery. The raw. It helps to know the distillery where it was aged. Places like Penelope, where they have the MGP product, where it was already aged in Indiana, but they blended it together in their place in Kentucky. They turned that shit into $1 million business. Very few distilleries do that many expressions. It was really hard to find it. Yeah, you're right. Because there were a lot of them, those scotches that we were looking at, there were a lot of them that were finished with a barrel. I don't remember anything about this. There was a very specific criteria that I was looking for. I wanted 4 different ages with everything else being the same. And most Scotch guys, they finish their whiskeys. The 14 is finished with this, and the 16 is finished with something else, and the 12 is finished with something else, and everything is finished with something different, and they're 4 very different flavors. And I was saying before, it was a Scotch manufacturer where I liked the 14 better than the 16 because the 16 was finished in a port barrel, and I absolutely hate port. Port to me tastes like illness. Port to me tastes like cough syrup, cold and flu medicine. Port to me, I have a very specific memory of being sick on the couch, watching The Price is Right, throwing up several times into a trash can, and being so sick that my mom brought me a GoBot, 2 GoBots to play with because I was so sick. To make me feel a little bit better, she brought me the GoBots. And no, I don't remember the distillery that we did these scotches. There was so much about it was unremarkable. I don't remember. But all things being equal, That age statement, the only thing that matters with that age statement is if all things are equal. If it's all from the same distillery, then the age statement matters. So Buffalo Trace 5 year, Buffalo Trace 10 year, Buffalo Trace 25 year, whatever. Glenmorangie 15 year, Glenmorangie 10 year, Glenmorangie whatever. All of that, you gotta know. Just the age statement is not going to tell you what it is that you're trying to find out. That's it. Age statements matter. They absolutely matter, but they're not all the information. Not all the information at all. Um, that's like saying Mike went to the hospital. That's it. That's all the information you have. You know where he was. You don't know if it was because it was an appointment that he went there voluntarily, if it was an emergency, if he was brought by his friends, if he was brought by the ambulance, if he was helicoptered in. You don't know any other information about it. You just know Mike went to the hospital. That's it. Does that tell you everything you need to know? No. It tells you his location, hospital, but it doesn't tell you everything you need. Just like 5 years aged does not tell you everything you need to know. What fucking time is it? God damn, I've been babbling on for an hour and a half. Ugh. Anyway, I'd go further. I'm not even aware of a single distillery with that many expressions, period, let alone the same casks. Yeah, it was extremely hard to find one maker that had that many different products. I don't remember who it was. I cannot remember. It's been at least, God damn, it's been 12 years. It was 2010, 2011, somewhere around that. And it was wholly unremarkable. The scotch was wholly unremarkable. It tasted like whiskey. It was fine. But the 12 was way better than the others. I do remember that the 12 was better than all the others. That's it. What kind of port? I don't. No, I don't like port. I, none. Nothing about port makes me happy. The handful that I've had, I'm admittedly ignorant about port wines in general. I just know that any port that I've ever had, which has only been on like 4 occasions, because it's like with Brussels sprouts, you only have to have it a couple of times, and you're like, "Fuck, I hate Brussels sprouts. Don't give me any more." Ugh. Um, but yeah, I admittedly, I'm ignorant about port wines. The differences and the styles and all that. Port is port to me. It tastes like shit, and I don't want to drink any more of it. I've had enough that was bad, and it is not something that I'm interested in. I'm interested enough in to do the research to find one that I like. I, there's plenty of other stuff out there that I can drink that I don't have to fucking drink port. But I do know that this one particular scotch, I don't want to name drop them. I guess I can. Nobody cares. Balvenie. It was Balvenie. I think it was Balvenie's 16 that was port aged, and their 14 that was not. And the 14 was better, way better than the 16, because the 16 made me think of laying on the couch, watching The Price is Right, throwing up into a trash can. Just again and again and again. And, when you're a kid and you're laying on your side and you feel it happening and you bend over and you're crunched up and your stomach's all compressed, and that compression in your stomach is causing like the spasms to continue, and you're hunched over and you're balled up, and you just keep going and keep going and you keep going, and you can't stop, and then you have to like think in your head, your little teenage head, your early preteen to teen head, like you've got to stretch your legs out, or you're gonna keep squeezing bile out of your stomach. That's what port tastes like to me. Ugh, such a bad experience. but I got 2 GoBots out of it. So that's kind of cool, I guess. One was a Volkswagen like Bumblebee, but it wasn't Bumblebee. It was a GoBot version of Bumblebee. And the other one was I think it was a motorcycle, if memory serves, which was pretty cool. Which was pretty cool. I mean, they were cool toys. They weren't Transformers, mind you, but this is where we're talking the early '80s at this point, where like you took what you could get. You know, it was awesome. I was happy. I was happy. Kentucky bourbons really take advantage of those rick houses. Meanwhile, Scotch, the Dunnage warehouse, less very. Yeah, my understanding is that the Scotch is not entirely like I've seen the rick houses in Kentucky. They're basically old tobacco barns, the big giant old tobacco barns. They're just fucking almost practically open air. But they're wooden barns out in the middle of a field. The Scotch houses, the Scotch warehouses are like almost they're not underground, but they're more temperature controlled, less temperature variation than what you get in Kentucky. Um, I don't know. I don't know as much about Scotch. I know about the climate and temperature in Scotland when it comes to aging, but I don't know about the individual distillery practices. That's a little bit beyond my. Now I don't have to research Scotch. I don't make Scotch. Um, See a lot more variation with the charred barrels due to look. Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly. Uh, in fact, from what my understanding is, they try to reduce the variation as much as they can. They try to limit it and just go with the climate variation. But they also have a lot. They do more variation with the barrel itself than they do with the climate itself because they just don't have as much variation in their climate in general. They have a narrower climate zone in Scotland than what they have in Kentucky or Texas, for that matter. Um, so their climate zone has a they have fewer months of aging, and those months of aging have less of a climate variation, is my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm willing to learn. You probably know a lot more than me. Uh, Huge gap from trash to pretty. Yeah, I disagree. I've never had a good one. I've had enough that I don't want to try anymore. Same thing with Brussels sprouts. I've never had good Brussels sprouts. I've had enough that I don't want to try anymore. I'm 48 years old. I don't need to learn how to like Brussels sprouts. Fuck them. Tawny pork and rotten hell. Tawny port sounds like a stripper's name. Be honest. Port finishing on some whiskey can be great. I disagree. I disagree. That's what it is. Balvenie 21. I thought it was 16. That's what it is. 21. The 14 was way better than 21. I've been saying it was 16 all these years, disparaging their 16. I've been disparaging Balveni's 16 for 10 years now. A 16 would have been something special from them. Nah. French Oscath, they use it very much. Okay. Balveni's fine. They're great. They're good enough. They're a good scotch. I mean, I've had worse. I've had better. Um, Scotch dunnage warehouses are one floor where the rick houses are multiple floors. So yeah, less variation there. Also, the dunnage warehouses are dirt floors. Okay. It's cool and wet year round. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, the Scotland is just like they have fewer months where the temperature is consistently above 50 degrees. And in those months that it's consistently above 50 degrees, it never really gets, there's not a wide variation. It's not like it's not like here in Houston, for example, where you can wake up in the morning and you have a jacket, right? It's like 55, 65 degrees in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it's 85 or 90. And then in the evening, it's back down to 65 degrees. They don't do that in Scotland. In Scotland, it starts off at 55, it tops out at 60, and then it drops down back down to 55. That's it. It has a much narrower climate band. So even the months where it does age, where the whiskey's actively aging in the barrel, it's not a vast variation of aging where it's actively and vigorously going into the wood the way we do it here in Texas, or the way even they do it in the summer months in Kentucky. The summer months in Kentucky have a wider variation than the summer months in Scotland, and the summer months in Texas have a wider variation than the summer months in the spring and fall months in Texas have a wider variation than the spring and fall months in Kentucky. Our summer months are fucking. You wake up and it's 90 degrees. The crack of dawn, you go out and bring the garbage out to the corner, and it's fucking 85 degrees at the crack of dawn. You're like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to do this anymore. It gets up to 190 and it drops back down to a brisk, cool 87 degrees at night. Ugh. 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 Anyway, way less hot days, and heat is what really does it. Yeah, exactly. It's every day above 50 degrees. That's the science behind it. At least the science that I follow. Uh, Close that. Thank you. Close that. Thank you. Uh, Back to you over here. William Hall's in the house. Cheers, William Hall, one of our patrons and supporters of the channel. So we've had both of our members join us today, William and Mr. Jigs. Cheers, Mr. William Hall, winner of our sample pack. It is in the box. It is by my door. It is going out in the box by my door, going out to UPS tomorrow. I'll give you a shipping code. I'll email you the shipping code tomorrow so you can track it yourself. So that said, William Hall, cheers to you. You will have permanent recognition inside the distillery as an early adopter and supporter of the channel. Thank you, sir. As well as you, Mr. Jigs, who is right up there. Zow. Zing, zang, zow. Yeah, so anyway, age statements are great, but they don't tell you everything you need to know. The type of wood, the type of barrel, the type of climate, all the shit matters. William wins so much he has to give away his winnings. Oh, that's neither here nor there to me. He can do whatever he wants with his winnings. They're his. Is it midnight yet? It's quarter to midnight. I need to go to bed. I got to get up in the morning. We got an electrician coming to the shop tomorrow. Possibly tomorrow. Possibly Friday. Possibly Saturday. Possibly Monday. Whenever. My hippie lamp is bubbling. I've got a boomer message waiting for me in my fucking emails that I don't want to read. I'm tired of the fucking boomer shit. Fucking boomers. I mean, seriously. Is there anything that they've done that they haven't fucking ruined? Any institution, any business, any policy, any cultural event that they haven't fucking ruined? Fuck these guys. I'm so tired of them. So tired of the goddamn boomers. I love my mom. Straight up boomer. But it's like with any group, there's individuals who are good. I like my mom. I love her. But damn, she has a friend. This woman tried to explain to me, this person tried to explain to me, they've got a battleship coming to the Eastern Mediterranean. Not just the shit you read about and heard about, the aircraft carriers, but they got a battleship coming too, and other stuff that you aren't seeing on the media. The last battleship was decommissioned in 1958. In order to have a battleship in the Eastern Mediterranean, we need a fucking time machine. These people believe anything. Fucking ruined everything. Bless her heart. Love her. She's a great person. But Jesus fucking Christ. The frozen pizza. What frozen pizza are you eating, Dustin? Because I need to know. Because oh man, I could do a full on like review of frozen pizzas. We got Red Baron, DiGiorno, Totino's. Don't sleep on Totino's. The Walmart pizzas, the HEB pizzas. I don't know if y'all got HEBs where y'all at. That's a Texas thing, but I think it might be a regional chain. Just punched in to say, hey, got a crash. Ah, what a bitch. That's okay. I love you still, even if you're a bitch. It was awesome you giving that to Slapshot. I told Slapshot no more. Just punched him to say, hey, his wife has to be happy and healthy going forward. Yeah. So anyway, Freshetta, it's another frozen pizza. For my money, DiGiorno actually is pretty decent. And that's another comparison you got to make. You got to go with a frozen pizza versus price. So a $12 frozen pizza better be a good fucking pizza. Because I can go to Little Caesars and get two $5 pizzas for the same price. And Little Caesars pizzas are crap. Don't get me wrong. They are garbage. There's no garlic on the crust. The sauce is mediocre at best. It's not thick sauce. The cheese is weak. The pepperoni's weak. Everything about the Little Caesars pizzas are weak. I mean, Domino's has good garlic on their bread, but their pizzas are so doughy. You know what I mean? We got a chain here locally called Marco's. It probably makes the best value pizza because they got great coupons. You get like two larges for $15. It's a great deal for Marco's. But Godfather's, oh my God, Godfather's is the closest mass production pizza to a Chicago style pizza that I probably ever had. And it's not close. Don't get me wrong, it's not close to a Chicago style pizza, but it's the closest to a Chicago style pizza because their toppings are like this fucking thick. They got a bed of sauce, and then they got cheese, and then they got pepperoni, and then they got sauce, and then they got cheese, and they got pepperoni, and it's like the pizza's like this. It's so good. Oh, so good. That's wrong. They don't have sauce and cheese and then sauce. They just have the cheese and sauce. The sauce is on top of the cheese and all. So good. So good. God. Anyway, Papa John's is huge, but it's not very doughy, but it's also not very flavorful. Pizza Hut is just like fine. You know, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just like fine. It's okay. I'll eat it. Don't get me wrong, but for the value, for the price of Pizza Hut, it's good. For the price they charge, it's good. Just like McDonald's sells a really good $2 coffee. Really good $2 coffee. Like I'd even pay $3 for their coffee. But if they tried to charge $4, fuck that. I would not. Their coffee is not a $4 coffee. Starbucks, on the other hand, sells a really good $4 coffee. Unfortunately, they charge $6 for it. So it's not the best value, but if you add flavors to it now, their mochas are really good. Their mocha becomes a really good $6, $7 coffee. But just their coffee is not a $6 coffee. Their coffee is a $4 or $5 tops. Anyway, home pizzas, frozen pizzas. Totino's is demonstrably bad. It's not a good pizza. It is a flat, square, drizzly little thin sauce. It's got the cheese that may or may not be cheese. It's got the pepperoni chunks that may or may not be pepperoni. It's got, whatever other crap they put on that stuff. I don't even want to talk about the vegetables. The vegetables aren't fucking pizza. Fuck the vegetables. It's not good. But it's only $1.25 for a pizza. I mean, that's worth it. It is a great $1.25. It's a great $1.50. It's almost worth $2. I might even be willing to pay $2 for a Totino's pizza. You get a Totino's pizza and a dozen pizza bites? You've got a meal, my friend. That is great. That is a fucking meal. That'll fill you up, and it only cost you like $3, maybe 4. That's a deal to dive. You try go get Whataburger or Burger King. Jesus Christ, a number 3 from Burger King will cost you $7. A Bacon King cost you $12 for the meal. Go to Wendy's for a Baconator, it's going to cost you $12. You go to Whataburger for a number 1 or number 2, you're talking about $10 or $12. Get a whole fucking pizza for $1.50 and throw in its friends, the little pizza bites, for another $1, $2. Jesus Christ, dude, that's a hell of a meal. It's shitty food. Don't get me wrong. It is barely food. It does not qualify as like there are refugees who would reject that food. The Ethiopians would be all like, no, 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 no. We want bread. And that reference only makes sense if you're a certain age like me. Um, so on the lower tier of price, Totino's is top notch, without question. The price to value, top notch. Freshetta's too expensive. Red Baron's too expensive. DiGiorno is right price, right quality. Delicious. Good value for your money. You get a good quality pizza. Freshetta, it's okay. But it's not great. It's okay. Especially at the price they charge. I mean, damn, the DiGiorno pizzas are like $5 or $6 for a pizza. Like a little bit cheaper than Little Caesars. But you get a better pizza from DiGiorno's than you do from Little Caesars. Without question. But I'm pretty sure Frechetta's closer to 8 and Red Baron's like $9. $9 for a fucking stay-at-home pizza? Fuck you. For $9, I'm going to Domino's. I'll pay 12. Get a Domino's pizza that's 10 times better than your shitty $9 pizza. Ugh. Fuck you, Red Baron. Anyway, I'm available for sponsorships. You want me to hype your brand? I'm down, homie. All right, what were we talking about? Comes and goes. That was awesome. You give him slap shot. I guess William Hall slap shot. Just punch in to say hi. Got a meeting in 5 hours. Awesome. Be happy and healthy. Top Shelf Dustin, thanks. Just went into with it. Cheers, Top Shelf. This is a Kroger brand thin crust. Okay. Double pepperoni. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that private select stuff, the shit you get from the deli, what we talk about? That's some good pizzas. Yeah. Okay. So y'all do have Marco's out there. Okay. Cool. I didn't know if they were a Texas brand or if they were a regional brand. That's cool. And I don't think that they make their pizzas consistent across because I know for a fact, during the pandemic, like in 2020, 2021, Marco's pizzas were barely better than DiGiorno. You could get a DiGiorno pizza and Marco's pizza, put them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And Marco's was like $20 for a pizza. They were insane. Godfather's is another one. They are so greasy. Godfather pizzas, but they're so fucking thick. I mean, their pizzas are like that, and it's so fucking good. Oh, it was found in Ohio. I had no idea. I had no idea where um there are 9 there. Red. I don't. It's been so long since I've had a Red Baron pizza because they were the price to value was so fucking out of. I don't know if they're $9. It might be $7. But it's a stupid amount of money. It's for what you get from a Red Baron pizza. It's garbage. I'm available for sponsorships, Red Baron. And the thing is, Red Baron, DiGiorno, and Freshetta probably all pump out of the same Chinese factory or the same factory in Iowa or Indiana or wherever the fuck they all come from. They all come out of the same damn factory, just go into different boxes. But they are distinctly different pizzas. They're very different pizzas. And dollar for dollar, dollar to value, DiGiorno to me, DiGiorno was a rising crust, guys, right? DiGiorno was a rising crust pizzas, regardless. They, no, it's not delivery. It's DiGiorno. That was DiGiorno. Was Freshetta the rising crusts? Yeah, either way. Um, Red Baron is $4. $4? $4? Are you kidding me? Dude, I gotta look it up. I gotta look up Red Baron price check in Kroger here in Houston. Red Baron pizza. Red Baron pizza. Pepperoni meat lover. Find it near you. Yes, please. Maybe I should just go to Kroger's directly. Kroger. Kroger near me? I'm suddenly bad at interneting. No, it's a fucking app. I don't want the fucking app. Oh, look at me. I'm a boomer now. I don't know how to use my phone. Uh, Kroger. Just go to that. The webpage, thank you. Oh, yeah, Red Baron Pizza. Okay, here we go. Red Baron Pizza. Holy shit. Classic crust, 4 cheese, $3.99, $3.99, $3.99, $3.99. Am I sleeping on Red Barons? Am I over here like disparaging Red Barons? I know Red Baron does the oh, here we go. Fully loaded Red Baron, $6.99. Fully loaded hand tossed. There's that fully loaded hand tossed. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. $6.99 Red Baron. Fully loaded hand tossed. $6.99. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm just getting looking at the most expensive. Maybe that's what I was thinking when I saw it. But it's $4 for the French bread pizzas, and I love the French bread pizzas. Back when I was a kid, shit, I would make those myself. But there was a period. Maybe it's what am I thinking? I'm over here shitting on Red Barons, guys. Red Baron, I will sponsor your product. You send me pizzas, I will talk about your pizzas. Freshetta. I bet they're all owned by the same company, though. I really do. Maybe that's the one. Freshetta, that's the $7 shit. $6.25. Freshetta is the expensive one. I was thinking Red Baron was it. Why was I thinking Red Baron so expensive? DiGiorno. DIGORN. DiGiorno frozen pizza. Y'all remember Grey Poupon Dijon mustard? Goddamn, DiGiorno is the expensive stuff. DiGiorno is the expensive stuff. Look at that shit. $8. We only buy it with coupons, though. We're not bougie. We like the nice stuff. We just don't like to spend $8. So DiGiorno is the most expensive of the 3 fucking pizzas. I'm over here shitting on Red Baron for being the most expensive of the 3 fucking pizzas. And meanwhile, I'm like crowing about the ones that are the most goddamn expensive. I don't shop for groceries in my household. I don't shop for groceries. But you should also know that not only do I not shop for groceries, but I prefer Totino's pizza. I prefer the cheapest, the shit that's barely food. I much prefer that. Anyway, thank you for helping me to get better. DiGiorno is 8 for rising crust, but I'm more like a thin crust guy. Red Bear is what I get when I want a discount pizza. It's my budget choice. Yeah, price might be a sale, but it's always on sale here. Fresh shit is expensive as fuck, but also DiGiorno is expensive as fuck. I don't know anything about the prices of the food that I eat. I am an ignorant man. I am an ignorant man child. I'm not a man child. I'm just an ignorant man. I am an ignorant man who knows nothing about the food. I don't like bruschetta pizza. I don't. I'm not. Well, you know what? I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, I like Totino's and I like DiGiorno, and I thought DiGiorno was the cheapest of the 3 options. So what I need to do is do a show where we taste test the different major frozen pizza brands. Where I have a Freshetta, a DiGiorno, a Red Baron, Totino's, and compare and contrast. Blindfolded with my beautiful wife, my lovely wife, my beautiful assistant. No, I can't call her beautiful assistant. Lisa, my competent assistant, my assistant. We'll just go with assistant. My lawyer, Lisa. She will join us, and we will have pizzas. And I have 3 boys in my house, so they will get eaten. Tombstone. Oh, Tombstone. Yeah, I gotta throw in Tombstone. How much is a Tombstone pizza? Excuse me. Kroger.com. Tombstone. Tombst. Tombstone pizza. That's only $5. Yeesh. Yeesh. I also probably ought to throw in a proper store-bought pizza or a delivery pizza like you know, Domino's or Pizza Hut or something. Probably. As a control. Do a Little Caesars, do a Domino's. But to do stuff like that, we need more revenue for the channel. So memberships are available, super chats are available. We need more revenue for the channel because we only make about, I don't know, $2 a day off of fucking ads. Not enough. Not even $2 a day. I think yesterday we made 72 cents. What did we make yesterday on ads? That's a good question. Let's look at the analytics. Hello, studio. Revenue. Yesterday we did 13 cents of revenue. 65 cents on the 24th. Yeah. So yeah. We need more revenues, super chats, and memberships, and all that shit. So go tell your friends, share it to public spaces or whatever. In fact, I'm going to do a membership-a-thon in a few days. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do a membership-a-thon, and I'm going to give away a bottle of whiskey to someone who becomes a member. We've got 2 members now. We're going to give away a whole fucking bottle of bourbon to a member. That's something that I can do. I can do that. I can say, look, if we get 20 members at the super fan level, that is enough to pay for, because we get $2 a month, roughly. No, yeah, no, 250, 225, somewhere in that neighborhood, something like 225 from the memberships. So if we get 30 members, that I can afford to pay for a bottle of whiskey. And that bottle of whiskey will go to one of the new members that day. And maybe we'll do that every month for a few months just to boost up membership numbers. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It'll be fun, though. It will be fun. Yeah, we're going to do stuff. We're going to do stuff this year. This year, 2024. It's going to be a fun year. Any hoodles, toodles. We're throwing some tombs. That's going to be a good show. That's going to be a good show. We're going to have Tombstone, Freschetta, DiGiorno. A pizza tasting show. Let me get my notebook. Yeah, I need a pen too. There's a pen. Pizza tasting. I did fucking Brussels sprouts. They should entertain my stupid pizza idea. Pizza show. Tombstone, DiGiorno, Freschetta. Yeah, we'll get one of each. And we got enough oven space to cook it. That'd be fine. We'll do a taste comparison, flavor, taste, and flavor, taste, and price. And it's not fair to throw Totino's into that mix because they're better than all the others. The value to price, flavor, the taste to price comparison is just not fair. It's $1.25, and it's a nostalgia flavor. It's the flavor of the pizza, the flavor, texture, and shape of the pizza that we had when we were in high school. Fucking kids today, they're like, yeah, they bring in Domino's. Like, fuck you. We had a sheet of pizza cut into rectangles that we ate, and we loved it. We rolled that shit up and just like, God damn, that was good. Good times. Good times. We didn't even know what we had at the time. And now, and now the boomers fucking ruined it. As they took charge of the schools, they're like, you know what? You're going to have Domino's now. We're going to have premium pizza. We're going to privatize the cafeterias. We can't have state employees be lunch ladies. We're not going to do that shit. Fucking asshole. Oh, Lord. Oh, my belt buckle's not in the right spot. Hold on. There we go. Gotta make sure it's pointed the right direction so you can see the belt buckle. I have a silver one as well for the same whiskey. It's good whiskey. That rye is. I wouldn't say to die for it. Don't die for it, but definitely get some. You need a longer brand. You need a longer brand. Got to go generic. The pizza's not. That pizza was not good. You're right. It was not good. But for $1, for the price, it was good, man. And Totino's is not, like I said, Totino's is empirically bad. Like every part of it is bad. The bread is this weird like bubble crust shit. It's not like bread. It's not bread. It's like this crispy, like thin crust nastiness. The sauce is this little thin, dribbly tomato juice. It's not even sauce, really. It's like tomato soup. Thin, dribbly tomato soup. It's gross. The cheese is these chunks of mozzarella. The pepperoni is the chunks of pepperoni. It's not even slices of pepperoni. It's not good. It's not good pizza. but it's $1.25 a piece. That's a pretty good deal. I'll spend $1.25 for mediocre pizza. Shit, I spent $5 for mediocre pizza at uh, Little Caesars. I mean, you spend more than that at Cece's Pizza, and you get pizza that's been sneezed on and pawed over by a bunch of fucking filthy, disgusting vermin children who bring their disgusting diseases into the goddamn Cece's, and they sneeze and wipe their nose and rub their ass and touch the pizza. Ugh. And you're like, yeah, I'll eat that. Sure. You nastier stuff at Captain D's, Golden fucking Corral. Yuck. Yuck. I mean, I thought the pandemic would have killed all that shit off, but no. No. Absolutely not. It did not. Um, what's that say? Oh, Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm. The like you spell the name of the city, Stockholm. Stockholme. Home. Stockholm. Holm. Stockholm. Anyway, uh, $1 school lunch in 1990 is $2.42 today. Yeah, that sounds about right. When I was a kid, my parents would give me, my mom, not my parents, my dad didn't do it. My mom would give me $5 for lunch money for the week. And I could choose to use that money for actual lunch, or I could skip lunch and use my dollar a day to buy a Coke and a candy bar. Or I could save that $5 and at the end of the month go to the mall. If I chose not to eat lunch for the whole month, then I would have a whopping $20 in my wallet, and I could go to the mall and look at stuff that I could not afford. No, I kid. I could buy comic books or some shit like that I wanted to get at the mall. That's usually what I would do. I'd buy comic books. Thor, Avengers, West Coast Avengers was my jam. I like the West Coast Avengers and I like Thor. I didn't really like the Avengers. Pardon me. I think I may go get some fresh water. Anyway, where are we at? You want something wild? 2019 dollar. What? What's that say? I'll read it real quick by putting an X right there and lifting it up one stop. $2019, $1.20. It's been 25% over the course of 3 years. Well, that's 8% a year. That's not that much. I mean that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. That's 4 times what inflation has been historically. Historically, well, by historically I mean over the last like 25 years, since 1990, mid 1990s, whatever. Inflation's been hovering between 2 and 3%, somewhere in that neighborhood. 4% inflation was a lot. Post-pandemic inflation, we're talking 8%, but it's coming down. It's not 8% right now. It's like 6% and falling. Inflation hasn't been a story for like 6 months. And a good chunk of that inflation was driven by corporate profits, which is one of the reasons why we're looking at a bunch of strikes right now. The workers are like, guys, y'all have jacked up rate or jacked up prices. Y'all are making historic profits. We want a piece of that shit. Pay us, motherfucker. And you got auto workers, writers, actors. Uh, there was a service union that is going on strike. There's the UPS guys threatened to go on strike. There was another one recently, and it was one of those unions where you're like, oh, I didn't have any idea they had a union. they were about to strike, and they went on strike. I can't remember which one it was. It's like who are they even? Like, did they even have? I can't remember who it was. Yeah, doesn't matter. But the auto workers have expanded their strike. There was a plant here in Texas that's not a union plant that went on strike. Yeah, it's crazy. Um, it's a hair under 25%. Yeah, over the course of 4 years, rounded to a more favorable number. 3.6 running 12 month, 3.7. Yeah. So we're very close to where we were pre-pandemic. Very close. Uh, which is what you would expect over the course of 2 or 3 years as the temporary supply chain issues were dealt with and the inflation caused by the structural inflation that was there caused by the logistics and supply chain issues when you had like shit stacked up in boats sitting off the port. But also, a lot of those factories, the production for those factories is moved back home, where we just couldn't get the supply from China. They moved it back home where we can get the supply from here. Who's that? Oh shit! Whiskey Uncensored is in the house. Yeah, we're fucking doing math. Yeah, and that's the thing. The prices haven't gone down. The inflation gets baked in. You know, it goes up 10% one year, it stays at 10% the next year. But that's why we're talking. That's why you got workers who are going on strike. They're like, look, y'all are making more profits. Y'all are making more money than you've ever made before. We need a piece of that shit, motherfucker. And oh, housing is completely out of control. That's one of the you fucking know how this works. That's one of the drawbacks of a low interest rate society, low interest rate economy. Low interest rates mean affordable mortgages. Affordable mortgages means higher house prices. Home prices go up faster in a low interest rate environment. You know, you buy a house for $100,000 at 8%, interest rates drop to 4%. Now you can afford a $150,000 house. So the same house, all things being equal, the same house payment, now you can afford a $150,000 house. Well, it's actually not even that. What is it? You can afford 50% more payment. So 1,500 times 30. I'm sorry. If you afford $1,000 payment times 30. No, that's wrong. Oh, fuck. I don't know how to do this on my fucking calculator real fast. I can't do the sloppy, easy math on my calculator. Um, Home prices have been going up crazy since the early 80s. As mortgage prices have dropped, home prices have just shot through the fucking roof. Uh, you're at your home that you live in is considered an asset that goes up 10% in value every 5 years. What other assets go up 10% in value every 5 years? A consistent 2% a year. Well, stocks do. Home prices don't do that though. That's the wrong number. This 10% in value, it's not every 5 years. It's 10% in value. It's what? Every 2 years? 10% in value? Every year it goes up 5%, give or take. But that's what a low interest rate environment does for you. Low interest rate environment does that for you for houses where you buy it on debt. Anything you buy with debt goes up in price. Anything you buy with cash stays low in price in the low interest rate environment. Whiskey has stayed at a fairly reasonable price on the mass produced side, on the maxi whiskey uh, end of the spectrum. Whiskey has stayed at a fairly stable price, although Jack Daniels, I believe, has gone from $14 to $16 in the past 4 years, which is a 15% increase in Jack Daniels. On the premium side, however, whiskey prices have gone up between 5 and 10% in the last 2 or 3 years. So on the premium side, you're seeing a little bit more price elasticity because the nature of the market on the premium side means that they're willing to pay 25-30% more on their whiskey in general. So where your commodity buyers are willing to pay $15, $16, $17. I don't want to pay more than $20 for a bottle of whiskey. Your premium buyers are looking at whether they're less price conscious. In fact, a more expensive whiskey on the premium side is a status symbol. Willing to spend $60, $70, $80 on a bottle of whiskey, that's a status. I want to get a bottle of whiskey that's a $100 bottle of whiskey. What do you got? They seek out the expensive shit. That's the stuff. Whiskey is a different market. Home prices have been blowing up forever, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane. They've always been blowing up. That's why people buy 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. They buy them and rent them out and then turn around and sell them. That's why people fucking buy fixer-uppers and flip them and sell them. The home prices are insane. They've always been insane because people don't buy homes. They buy mortgages. They buy mortgages and they buy home payments. And if your interest rates are low at 4, 5, 6%, you can buy more house. When interest rates double, you can't buy as much house, and it causes a pinch in the home price. Home prices shrink. Homes sell less fast in a high interest rate environment. In a low interest rate environment, homes sell extremely fast because banks are more willing to loan money because it's a low interest and they need more loans. And people are more willing to pay more for a house because the interest rate is low and they can afford a higher payment. That's it. The value of the house hasn't changed. It's the value of the payment. And now you can afford more house, so you buy more house. Or the same house is more expensive. Same way with cars. Cars are cheaper when interest rates are low. Cars are more expensive when interest rates are high. Nobody pays $35,000 for a car. They pay $700 for a car payment every month for 72 months, for 84 months, for 96 months. They extend that fucking payment out as long as they can. They turn around and sell the car. They're upside down. They pay $5,000 to get out from under the car, and they buy another car with a stupid low rate. Nobody buys cars. Nobody fucking buys a car. Not anymore. They used to. They used to pay $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 for a car. My parents' first car, boomers, their first car, $500. Their first fucking car was $500. They paid $1,500 for their first family sedan. They paid $6,000 for a van, $12,000 for a van. A whole fucking van. The E350 fucking conversion van. You know what you can buy for $6,000 today? You're not buying a goddamn conversion van. You're going to pay $700 a month because you're going to pay $65,000. And you're going to extend that payment out for 9 years. And then when you're done, they're going to give you trade-in value for the van, and you're going to pay $5,000 to pay off the balance of the note, and then they're going to stick you with another note, and you're going to pay $700 for the next car, $800. You're going to pay $100 more. I know. I used to sell cars. I know how this shit works. And they're going to sell the note, and they're going to make money on it. It's insane. It's cuckoo. Rent rates are going up too. Yep. Rent rates are insane. Best of luck. Best time to buy a house is 40 years ago. So if you own a time machine, go buy your first house in 1982. Good luck. Stable low interest rate environment. That is what that is what we were promised. Whiskey as an investment. What's that? Assess the last 20 years has outpaced the stock market. Oh, oh. I want an Old Humble whiskey. What? I want an Old Humble whiskey the way it comes out. You want a cask strength whiskey. Yeah, a lot of people do. It's good to want things. It's good to want things. Because wanting things creates, it builds character. It builds character. Because when you want something, you work to make that thing happen. And if you're willing to work to make that thing happen, then something inside you changes so that you have a dedication and a commitment and growth as a person. See? Yeah. Wanting things is good. I encourage people to want things. Cask strength bourbon is one of those things that people can definitely want. And you see, one of the things that I'm capable of doing is taking a barrel and putting it on our bar and having a little nozzle on the barrel. So you can literally just pour a drink right on the bar for your cocktail. Like literally right out of the barrel. I could do that. I could. I absolutely could. Huh. Good buddies, Jack Daniels, sold me a cask strength single case rye or single cask rye. Ooh, Jack Daniels makes a rye. I guess they do make a rye, don't they? I've seen it on the shelves. Huh. Good for them. Still Jack Daniels though. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Jack Daniels. All right, kids. It's 12:30. I'm going to call this thing. We're going to be done in 30 minutes. I'm going to pour one more drink. My speech is going to get a little bit more slurry over the course of the remainder of the 30 minutes. If you want a mug like this, it is available right down there in the description of the show. Our spring store will bring you to the mug. It's a fine mug. It holds plenty of coffee, probably. I don't know. I've never used it for coffee, but yeah, it's down there. I think I don't know. I don't even remember what it cost. Like $20, $15. I don't know. But it's a good mug. It's a good mug. Yeah. Cheers. Boop. Nothing sexier than whiskey with wood chips still in it. I agree. Just not in a bottle. I don't mind pouring it out of the cask and into a cup, but not in the bottle. I don't want to see that shit in my bottle. And the only reason I say that is not because of presentation, not because of flavor, but because those wood chips, the handful of wood chips that are still in the bottle, will continue to age the whiskey. I've got a bottle of Boomtown over here somewhere. I think I have it over here on my museum shelf. I've got a bottle of Boomtown, one of the first bottles we bottled at the previous facility as Old Humble. It was the bottom of the barrel where we had poured everything into the barrel to mix the barrels together and then bottle it. It was one of the last 4 bottles that was poured out of that barrel, and it had chunks, whiskey, not whiskey, barrel dust floating in it. You could see it. You shake it up, hold the light, you could see the barrel dust floating in it. It's continued to age since 2016 when we bottled this up. It's continued to age. So, because the wood chips in the bottle continue to age the whiskey, it is almost opaque. Can't see through it. It's good whiskey. It's really delightful. But I can't replicate that. I can't replicate that within the time frames that I have available to me. That is one of those things that's a 750. It's aging faster even than the barrels. I can't replicate that. And if you buy that bottle with the wood chips in it that continues to age, and it sits on your shelf for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and continues to age, and you take a couple of drinks and it continues to age, you take a couple of drinks, it continues to age, you can't replicate that. You just, yeah. And as a seller, I can't replicate it. And if I can't replicate it as a seller, I don't want to sell it to you. So, cast strength is wonderful, nothing better. Now, if we do a cast strength, our second tier of members will get samples of that cask strength. If we do a single malt, if we do when we do a brandy, if we do our rice whiskey that I've been working on, if we do these things, our second tier wildcatters will get samples of those whiskeys and be invited onto a show and do a sip along with me. And I'll talk about the whiskey and talk about what we've done and talk about how we're going to do it. That is a $4.99 a month membership. So that tells me that there's people that are interested in that sort of thing. Char is yummy. It can be, but it's yummy. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just the replicability. Yeah. Filter the chips so the chips are large. Don't put water in it. But char flakes is awesome. Yeah, you don't want big. No, not big chips, not at all. Let me look. Hang on. Let me see if I can find a bottle over here. The bottle. It might be right here. Is that it? Yeah, here it is. That's the one. Version is this one. All right, so this is a bottle from from January 2023. Signed by me, January 2023. First bottling from the 2023 barrels. This is that bottle from 2015. And if you look, see if I can give you a light. Can you see the light through there? Yeah, you can see particulate floating in that thing. I can. I don't know if y'all can. I don't know if that shines through very well. But this is, I mean, you can see the distinctly different color. I've had a couple of sips out of this. It is divine. But it's not something that I can easily replicate. So I seriously need to clean my office up. Damn, this place is a pigsty. But my latest batch of whiskey coming out, my latest batch of Boomtown is nice and dark. It's not that dark, but it's getting progressively darker as we work our way through the summer months. The whiskey consumers, we don't want repeatable whiskey. We want different. Oh yeah, exactly. You want different, unique, individual styles of whiskey. But as a guy who makes it and sells it, I want your next bottle to be like your last one. Now the stuff you get at the distillery, unique, special. The shit you sell, I want the stuff you get at the store to be unique unto itself, but I also want each bottle to be repeatable. I want the bottle you buy to be different from Woodford, but I also want your next bottle to be as good or better than the bottle you just bought. So I need to be able to repeat the process. And I can't repeat that. I can't repeat that. That was 4 bottles were made. That was 4 bottles. The last 4 bottles that came out of that barrel. 4. There were 4 of those. I can't repeat that. I'll never be able to repeat that. If you want that bottle, it's like $10,000. But I can't repeat it. How much for a 2015? $10,000. You want that bottle? $10,000. With the flakes floating in it and everything. That's the last one that I have. That is my last. Actually, $50,000 because it's the last one that I have. So get some friends, collect some money. You can have that bottle for 50 grand. I mean, it's not for sale, is what that means. But but I get it. You want the unique bottles, you want special bottles, you want stuff. But even the unique and special bottles, Buffalo Trace, for example, they're unique and special bottles. They make fucking 100,000 of those. They make more unique special bottles than bottles that we make all year long. You want a unique special bottle? Here you go. There's like 1,000 of these that we make a year. 2,000. It's a unique, special fucking. This is more unique and special than anything you'll get out of Kentucky. Ever. Because they don't make things in 500, 200,000, 2,000 bottle batches. Ever. Ever. The thing is, we can't sell our stuff for the amount that it's worth. Because y'all aren't willing to pay for what it's worth. Because y'all think that factory whiskey with a special label is something that's unique and special, and it's not. It's not as unique and special as they want you to think it is. Y'all, and it's good marketing. Don't get me wrong. They're right. It's unique and special for what they make. They make millions of bottles a year. Out of their millions of bottles a year, they have a few thousand that they throw out that are, unique and special for them, which is less than 1% of what they make. Even if it's 100,000, it's 1% of what they make. But it's 100,000 bottles, or 50,000 bottles, or 25,000 bottles. I mean, I make 25,000 bottles in like 5 years. Yet literally everything I make is more unique and special than anything they ever do. But they got a brand behind them, and they got marketing behind them, and they've got YouTubers that give them free publicity. So I got 4 of those bottles that were ever fucking made. 4. They got trucks full of Pappy Van Winkle. I've got 4 bottles that were ever made in the history of the world. They've got a truckload of Pappy Van Winkle. But Pappy's rare. And that, I couldn't sell it for the value that it's worth. So, yeah. That's, that's the reality. The reality of the market. I mean, it is what it is. And I get it. It's fair. It is what I don't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget. I don't have teams of salesmen running around saying, "Look, you got to buy this if you're going to buy that. I'll give you a discount on 6 bottles or 6 cases of this if you buy 1 case of that." And then, a case of Eagle Rare shows up in a discount liquor store. I can't get them. I mean, but that's how it goes. And that's the world that I live in. That's the world I signed up for. It's not a complaint. It's a statement of fact. It's, frogs are green and grass is aromatic, I guess. It's a statement of fact. It's how the industry is. Part of our jobs as micro distillers, as craft distillers, is educating the consumers that what they're looking for, what they consider to be rare and special, is really just factory whiskey with special labels. It's not that rare. It's not as rare as they think. It may be rare in their store because their store has 10,000 bottles. It's a beautiful store and it's huge and great and they've got whiskey and rum and wines from all over the world and they have a whole beer section back there and they've got 8 bottles of this special Eagle bottle or this special Buffalo bottle or this special whatever bottle. Meanwhile, there's an entire section of local distillers from their state who collectively together don't make as much whiskey as that rare and special bottle that you've got. Because that rare and special bottle, there's 8 in that store, there's 8 in the other 200 stores in that chain, and there's 8 in the other 200 stores in the other 50 states. So it's like 1,000 in this state and 200 in that state and 200 in the other state and 50 in this state and 50 in that state. And then over the course of the 50 states, you have, 10,000 bottles. But that's rare and special because they've only got 1,000 bottles in Dallas. But, 1,000 bottles for the 5 million people that live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's hard to get a hold of. There's only 1,000 bottles. But meanwhile, over in Austin, there's that distillery that only made 1,000 bottles at all. There's these guys that are more rare than anything Buffalo Trace has ever made. There's these guys that are more rare than Buffalo Trace has ever fucking made. Where's another one? Oh shit, all my other bottles are over there. You get my point. And they're different flavors. They're not always good. But if you're looking for rare and unique and special, and your E.H. Taylor is rare and unique and special, just like the E.H. Taylor at at 3-4 score different home bars, it's not that rare and special. I'm just saying, if I had a rare and special baseball card, and I went to a baseball card convention, and another 500 people showed up with the same baseball card signed by the same guy, would it be considered rare and special? I mean, I don't know if we share the same definition of rare and special. That's all I'm saying. I bottled up 180 bottles of whiskey today. 180 bottles of whiskey. That whiskey will go to 20 stores next month. If Eagle Rare was doing a release to Total Wine, Eagle Rare would have more whiskey in more stores for their special release than I would of my straight whiskey. But theirs is rare and special. Theirs has better marketing. That's all. And it's good whiskey. Don't get me wrong. It's fine. It's good whiskey. It's good. It's good Kentucky whiskey for what that's worth. I'm just saying, we don't share the same definitions of rare and special whiskeys. That's all. And if that's 4 bottles of whiskey that have ever existed. and it's good. It is. It's good. It's good. I'll fucking show you. Look at this. In a fucking shot glass. In a shot glass. I've had one shot of this ever. It's a clear shot. I'm not even gonna do a full shot. Do a half shot. Look at that. Look at that. Delicious, delightful. It's a little bit. It's a little bit darker. It's a shade darker than this latest batch of bourbon there. Yeah. It's got a deep, really rich, oaky flavor. But it's good stuff. It is good stuff. It starts with good bones too. That Boomtown is a good solid, uh, flavor profile. It's a good solid. Uh, it's a good solid profile to start with. It's a good balanced mash bill, and it's a good balanced mash bill that goes well with the barrels that we age it in, and that's what it goes with. A lot of us keep buying the sample brands. We expect each batch to be a little bit different. Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of a craft distillery. Each batch that we make is a little bit different than the batch before. Like that batch, that bottle from the first bottling of the 2023 batches was different than this last bottling of the 2023 batches. It's drastically different. This last bottle. In fact, this isn't even the last bottle. This is the third bottling of the. Actually, I've blended together so many bottles of this. I don't even know where it is anymore. I don't have a last. I don't have a bottle right now with me from the last bottles, last barrels that it came out of. But that's one. Okay, there's two of us here. There's one. Where's the other three? Huh? What are you talking about? Oh. The reason we won't keep buying the same brand bottle is we expect these. We want to keep, yeah, and that's actually also one of the challenges for my segment of the industry is that the buyers buy different brands every time. It's not unlike the Scotch side of the industry, where you buy a Scotch and then you go buy a different Scotch and you buy an Island Scotch, you buy Islay Scotch, you buy Highland, Lowland. You kind of bounce all the way through, and you kind of make a tour of Scotland every time you buy a different. Some people have their regional preferences. They prefer Orkneys versus Isleys. They prefer the Isleys versus the Highlands, and they buy just that just that type, just that style. But they buy a different brand every time. They kind of bounce around from distillery to distillery. I'm in the mood for a Glen. I'm in the mood for the other Glen. I'm in the mood for this Glen. They kind of go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They very rarely buy the same Scotch every time. In the whiskey in the bourbon world, there's the people that buy their habit bourbons. There's the same bourbon that their dad bought, who buys the same bourbon that their granddad bought, who buys the same bourbon that their great granddad bought. They've been drinking this bourbon for 160 years. I'm going to keep drinking this bourbon. We are who we are. We're Evan Williams people. That's who we are. That's what we are. I made, my great 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 grandfather set us on this path, and we are that. That's what we are. If I buy something else, I'm betraying the family. Then there's the people that buy the Crown or Jack and they mix it with their Coke. They don't really care. Jim Beam, whatever. They buy their shit. They mix it with their drink. They don't care. But then there's the people on the craft side that buy this brand and then they go to that brand and then they go to that brand and they have a bar that has 1,000 bottles in it that are all 3/4 full. and they don't. You get them to try your whiskey, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have a bottle at my house. It's 3/4 full. Here's a picture." Like, God damn it, finish your fucking whiskey, drink it, man. Buy another bottle. God damn, you're killing me, Smalls. That's one of the big challenges in our industry because you'll get a person who likes your whiskey, but they won't buy it but once every 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So then your annual sales is based on a market that has to be 3 or 4 or 5 times as big as what your sales need to be. So instead of 1,000 people buying the whiskey, you need 4,000 people because those people buy one bottle of your whiskey every 4 years. That's a challenge. That's a big challenge in my industry, on my segment of the industry. Um, Old Humble Van Winkle. 150 bottles is pushing the limit in rare and special, huh? And be a baller and take a rip. No, I don't like taking rips right out of the bottle. I could though. No, I'm not gonna do that. I don't succumb to peer pressure. Nice try. It's the wrong audience to claim each Taylor Eagle Rare is special. That's true. I mean, y'all are a little bit more sophisticated, and that's fair. I get that, and I appreciate that. Y'all are different. My people, the people that appreciate good whiskey, the people who appreciate whiskeys that are truly rare and truly special, y'all are a different breed. And I get that. Y'all aren't, I'm not necessarily talking about y'all or to y'all. Well, I'm talking to y'all, but not about y'all. You'll know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I mean. Y'all know exactly what I mean. The people who like wake up and like sports history started in 2019 or whatever. In sports cars today, over 25 is no longer seen as rare and special. Exactly. I mean that's kind of the point. I mean I have a special edition #1 issues of Spider-Man from the early 90s that there were 3 or 4 different uh, #1 covers made. And I went and got each one of them. And then I realized several years later, like they made like trillions of these things. I'm like, oh, this sucks. They're all only worth like $5. Sucked. Anyway, yeah, there's no water added after dumping. Uh, YouTube isn't the audience that believes this bullshit. Dude, YouTube absolutely has the audience that believes this bullshit. Uh, they absolutely have this audience. There's so many YouTubers, whiskey tuber people who are like, yeah, I'm going to go out and try a brand new whiskey that I just found. Here's Jack Daniels. And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Here's a special whiskey haul. Look what I found. Like, yeah, everybody has that, you dumb moron. But he has a good editor. So, he makes fancy videos and they look good and they look special and look pretty. And he gets 1 million followers or whatever. The dip. I don't know, for the rare whiskey and the whiskey tubes. Yeah. Well, whiskey tube that is true. Buffalo Trace and the whiskey tubes is not special. But in the real world, when you're at an actual store doing a tasting, you have any idea how many fucking people come in? You're like, hey, would you like to try my delicious whiskey? They come and say, hey, do you know where the Buffalo Trace is? You're like, fuck you. All the way in you and through you and around you. Fuck you. Go right to hell. Go straight there. Just go straight to hell and talk to Staten because you are terrible. I'm here with my fucking logo on my shirt, you dumb moron. Moron. Anyway, I'm not going to, I do not chug whiskey. I'm a grown up. Thank you. I am a grown up. I am a grown ass man. And I have been known to drink straight out of the bottle, but I'm not going to drink straight out of the bottle here. This is my fucking show. I'm trying to be responsible. Somewhat responsible. Uh, uh, dude, I've tasted it so many times. It is such a good whiskey, and it keeps getting better. The longer it's with that oak. If you ever make your way to the distillery, I will happily share with you the Distiller Select out of the vault. It is so good. Most Scotch is the same 4 or 5 blends. Yeah, a lot of Scotch is the same 4 or 5 blends. Mostly Walker, yeah. I mean, you want a solution for your problem on batch of Boomtown 2023, batch 1 2023. Yeah, we did that with the clear labels. We had the numbered batches back here. Nobody cared. Nobody cares. Absolutely nobody cares. So, oh, you you knew who I was talking about? I thought I was being clever. I thought I was I thought I was hiding who it was that I was talking about. Yeah, that guy is so. Anyway, I'm not. I don't want to disparage whiskey tubers. Those guys. I mean, they do good. They do good work. They do the Lord's work. They're introducing the world to. They're introducing the world to our craft. They're doing fine. But he is. He is. How do I put this? How do I? Is there a way to say this politely? How do you say he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about? Politely. I don't think there's a way to say that politely. So I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to say he's doing the Lord's work for a very broad segment of the population. There we go. There we go. I said it nicely. I was able to say it nicely. He ass man. I am. I'm a grown ass man. But yeah, Bruzel is doing a. I didn't even mention his name. I'm sorry. He's doing a great service for a significant segment of the population. That's that's a great way to say that he's doing shitty videos for a bunch of dumb people. But whatever. I love him. He's a great guy. He's done good work. He has no idea what he's talking about for the most part. But uh, bravo for him and his million followers or however fucking many he has. Boomtown Single Barrel #1 Cask Strength. That is a name. That has a Cougar Country Cask Strength. Hmm. No, Boomtown Single Barrel Cask Strength. Yeah, maybe a gold label. Maybe. We'll see. He's a charlatan. That is so efficient with words. You are like Edgar Allan Poe. So efficient with words. Charlatan. That's 3 syllables. What I did with a whole goddamn sentence of pussyfooting around and tiptoeing around. You fucking did it in 3 words. He's a charlatan. Yep. Yep. When I saw his review of Garrison Brothers, I'm like, Garrison Brothers isn't good, but it's not that bad. You fucked up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. That is something that someone who doesn't know anything about Texas whiskey says about Texas whiskey. You're a fucking idiot. But good for you for introducing shit to a mass market of morons. You know, say the bourbon junkies. I don't want to shut on the bourbon junkies. I want to show and say that they're legit YouTubers. Uh, but Bruzel should be hated by all. I agree. Well, I'm not. I'm going to say hated by all. There's a it's a big family, and we always everybody. There's a big family, and in every big family, you have that one weird cousin. That's all I'm saying. He's fine. Fine, whatever. Not bashed into. Yeah, yeah. See, the challenge though is we have a 5 gallon individual barrel. So out of that 5 gallon barrel is going to be like 30 bottles. I mean, it's a challenge. It's not even going to be 30 bottles. 30 bottles if I proof it down to 90. It's gonna be like 25 bottles if I leave it at cast straight. I'll work it out. Don't worry about me, guys. We'll work it out. It's in the experimentation phase. We're working on something. We're working on something that is a cask strength type bourbon. Bear with me. We're working on it. We're working on something. We're working on something. You're going to like what you drink. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to like it. Ugh. You're going to love this shit. Oh, it's going to be great. That should be my fucking commercial. You're going to love this shit. It's great. Anyway. Maybe some are better, but the batch we had was drain, pour, and... Ooh. Yeah. I mean, I'm not... Okay, so Garrison Brothers was the first major craft whiskey distillery in the state of Texas. And as such, they kind of set the standard because they were the first. They're also well-financed and they have good marketing. Well, well-financed marketing, if anything. So they're the most well-known Texas whiskey outside of Texas, with the exception of maybe Balcones. I need to go get some water for my cup, and I'm gonna hold that thought. I'll be right back. I don't even try to hurry with that. Here's my fresh water. I don't even try to hurry when I have that screen up. I don't even have to. You know what I mean? So where was I? I was talking about Garrison Brothers. They were the first in the industry, right? And as such, they kind of set the standard. They're the best known outside of the state of Texas, with the exception of maybe Balcones. Tito's is obviously nationwide brand, but they're a nationwide brand, but they're vodka, so they don't fucking count. But Garrison Brothers is real close second as far as notoriety, as far as notoriety outside the state, as far as just being picked up by ignorant morons like Bruzel. And one of the problems with that was they were early in the industry and branching out of the state so quickly, so early in the industry's life, they kind of introduced the flavor of Texas whiskey to the country before it was ready to be introduced to the country. So before we had established a flavor, a style, before we were even familiar as an industry with how the climate interacted with our barrels, the time interacted with our whiskey, the way our flavors came out over the course of the time in the barrels and the style that we were aging, before we were even familiar with all that stuff locally, they jumped out and they were like, "Here's my dick." And everybody outside the state was like, "Oh, it looks weird. It's all hooked and scraggly, and what have you been doing to it?" Because the whiskey tasted different than what you would expect, right? Aggressively aged is one of the terms that goes with it. Um, Trash, as you say, drain pour. Um, and I've been this has been part of my problem too as a whiskey as a distiller. I've grown over my with my process over the course of the last year, uh, making a better whiskey with every iteration that I do. The first batch, the second batch, my first batch was good, the second batch not so good, the third batch a little bit better than the first batch, the fourth batch has been better than all of the others before it. And this fifth batch and sixth batch this year are going to be better than the first four batches, without question. I already know it because I've tasted what's in the barrels. But as distillers, we grow in our process every time. Every time we do an iteration, every time we do a barrel, every time we do a distillation, we get better and better and better until the point where we've gotten to a point where we have uh, peaked. We figured it out, so to speak. And I'm on this is my fourth batch of bourbon, my fourth batch with six barrelings this year. Um, Six barrelings this year. Next year we'll have 12. We're gonna have two batches, 12 barrels. Um, you get better and better and better. Each iteration you get better. And I think Garrison Brothers jumped out of the state a little bit early. And they didn't just give themselves a a reputation outside the state and inside the state, honestly, because inside the state it costs like $120 to buy a bottle of Garrison Brothers. And Dan Garrison's a great guy. I've met him. He's a great guy. He's doing great work. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's trying to do, and he's building a great distillery. He's a good guy. Um, but the first time I had a bottle of, when I had it, it was $90. The first time I had a bottle of $90 with $90 whiskey, my thought was this tasted like a good $50 whiskey, maybe 40. And I was disappointed because I had spent $95, I think, $95 on that whiskey. And I drank it and it was like, this is this is not what I it's not what I bought. That's not what I paid for. It was a lot of disappointment involved. Um, you know, and one of the challenges that we've had with an industry in general is we've had a lot of growth in the industry over the course of the last 8 years. But the industry is also working towards finding its flavor and style and uh, presentation qualities, so to speak. And we've had, along with that, an industry organization that's jumped out trying to protect companies like Garrison Brothers, that's trying to define Texas whiskey, but we haven't found a definition of Texas whiskey. They're jumping out ahead of that organic industry process. And the Texas Whiskey Association is trying to define Texas whiskey when the Texas whiskey makers haven't figured out what Texas whiskey is supposed to taste like. We haven't figured we haven't gotten all of those details nailed down yet. We have distilleries that are doing stuff that we're doing stuff like what Nine Bandit's doing, like what Devil River's doing, like what Balcones is doing, like what Garrison is doing, like what Rimfire. There's this whole like hell Gulf Coast, not Gulf Coast, um, Twin Tails down in Galveston is a remarkably different whiskey than what we're making here in Humble, which is remarkably different than what they're doing in Ranger Creek, which is remarkably different than what they're doing in High, which is remarkably different than what they're doing in Waco. we've got so many different styles of whiskey that we're doing, even within the same distilling zones, like Galveston and Humble. We're only 90 miles apart, but we're in the same zone, but we're making very different whiskeys. Um, so one of the challenges of the industry has been just simply having the freedom do to explore our flavor and explore our taste and explore our style and do what we're trying to do, because we've got to sell whiskey for one, so we've got to have a standard brand that's out there, right? But we also have to be able to have a distinctive flavor that defines what we do. And every time we iterate our bourbon and make it a little bit better and make it a little bit better and make it a little bit better, it changes that distinctive flavor, that distinctive design. Um, and then when we jump out too early, when the granddaddy of the industry jumps out too early, then you have fucking morons like that fat bearded bastard in Kentucky saying, "Oh, this tastes like a typical Kentucky whiskey or typical Texas whiskey." It doesn't fucking taste like a typical Texas whiskey. You don't know what a typical Texas whiskey tastes like, because a typical Texas whiskey tastes like five different things, because five fucking different aging zones are in the state of Texas. You have High, which is in Central Texas, and then you have San Antonio, and you have Houston, you have Galveston, you have Dallas, you have fucking Laredo, Lubbock, Lufkin, El Paso. These are all different areas of the whole fucking state. All different areas of the state. All different areas of the state that generate different flavors, different styles, different aging profiles from the fucking barrels. There's no such thing as a typical Texas whiskey, you fucking bearded bastard, because there's at least five different zones. And within those zones, there's little variations. Just like there's four different zones in Scotland. Just like Texas is different from Kentucky. Just like Kentucky is different from Colorado. Just like Texas is different from New York. Just like Wisconsin is different from California. You can't just look at it and go, "Oh, well, this is typical." It's not fucking typical. There's not a typical, single, typical whiskey from the state of Texas. There's not a single typical whiskey from the state of Colorado. There's not a single typical whiskey from the entire fucking country of Scotland, which, by the way, can fit in the pocket of your typical fucking Texan. Because we're huge. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, one of the challenges of our industry in this state of Texas is that we're young, we're growing, and we're learning our style. And we continue to learn our style, even though we've been, as an industry, around since 2013, 2014. As an industry, we're still learning our style. And every bottle you get is going to be a little bit different, because every bottle you get is going to be a little bit. I mean, you're at the front end of a whole fucking industry figuring out what we're doing. And the first bottle you got from Garrison may have been garbage. The first bottle you got from me may have been garbage. I'm under no fucking delusions that every bottle of whiskey I've made have been good. Every bottle of Boomtown I've made this year hasn't been good. I know for a fact there's been a batch that's been one batch was a little not quite right. But I couldn't blend it with anything because we didn't have anything to blend it with. It was a second barreling. I don't want to say which barreling it was. It was a barreling. It came out. It looked a little light. It was not quite right. But I go out and do tastings, and people liked it, and they bought it. They fucking bought it. It had a flavor and a profile, a taste for everybody. But as we grow as an industry, that consistency is going to grow. That style is going to become more, consistent and more reliable. As we grow as an industry, as we grow as companies, and we make more whiskey, and we blend our own batches together. We find that style and we begin to blend them together. We're like, this is the right flavor. This is what we're looking for. I have a standard bottle that I compare my whiskeys to. I have a flavor profile that I'm looking for. I have a color that I'm looking for. Don't always hit it. We don't always get it, but I know what my straight whiskey's supposed to taste like. I know what my special reserve is supposed to taste like. I know what my rye is supposed to taste like, and I know what my bourbon's supposed to taste like. I know it, just like I know the sound of my children's voices. I know what it looks like. I know what it tastes like. I know the flavor that I'm looking for. And we get within a few percentage points of that. We hit it. We get there. The color may not always be quite what I'm looking for. The flavor is exactly what I'm looking for every time. Because I have standards. I'm hand making every fucking batch. And when you're making 10,000 gallons a day, 20,000 gallons a day, 100,000 gallons a day, that standardization becomes easier because it's harder to fuck up a 100,000 gallon batch than it is to fuck up a 10-gallon batch. 10-gallon batch is gonna be fucked up like that. You can sneeze in the wrong direction and they fuck up the whole batch. But 10,000 gallons, you can swim in 10,000 gallons and not fuck it up. You could piss in 10,000 gallons and nobody would know. I mean, nobody's pissing in filled liquor probably in Jim Beam. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't know what they do in their spare time. But what I'm saying is, the smaller the batch, the more the variation. And as we learn our trade, as we not just the trade, but as we learn our process, and the companies grow and the batches grow and everything we do grows, it becomes more consistent. And that consistency breeds a factory flavored bourbon. And the challenge becomes keeping the small batch style, keeping that small batch vibrancy, keeping that uniqueness that you get in a new industry with small batches and the handcrafting, but making enough to be able to sell to California and New York and Chicago and Miami and Peoria and Kansas City and Paducah and all these other chicken shit little towns that are in between Chicago and Houston and Dallas and LA and New York and Miami and Sacramento even. Sacramento is a real city, I guess. We can count that. But that's the challenge. That's the challenge of balancing the craft quality with the mass appeal. It's hard. It's not it's not it's not an easy balancing act to do unless you have a really good marketing program and a really good marketing department where you can trick people into thinking that your factory produced whiskey with your special label is a rare and unusual bottle that you can get a hold of. And then, reviewers and YouTubers and magazine writers and everybody else will be like, "Oh, they only released 8 bottles into the whole fucking city of Houston." Except it's not 8, but it's 8 bottles at that store in the city of Houston, and it's that store at that store at that store at that store and that store. And oh, it's really 1,000 bottles. Fuck off. Good marketing. 1,000 bottles in the city of Houston, 1,000 bottles in the city of San Antonio, 1,000 bottles in the city of Dallas, 1,000 bottles in all of Kansas, 1,000 bottles in all of fucking Louisiana, 1,000 bottles. Oh, it's 50,000 bottles. Yeah, that's rare and unusual. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off. You're not fooling anybody. But, one of these days, that'll be me. I'll be like, yep, special, rare, and unusual edition being released right here in the city of Des Moines, Iowa. Here you go. It's only 6 bottles in the whole city of Des Moines. But if you drive 6 miles down the road to the next chicken shit nobody town outside of Des Moines, then there's another 6 bottles, and you find out there's 150 bottles in the whole state of Illinois, Des Moines, Iowa. I've actually been to Des Moines. Oh, it's 150 bottles in Iowa. What about the next state over? Oh, it's another 150 there. And then another 150, and then another 150, and then another 150. Oh, so it's like really 6,000, 8,000, 7,000? 7,000. Okay, 8,000 bottles. Oh, that's nice. That's rare and unusual. 8,000 whole bottles, huh? Wow. Nice. Well done. Well done. Rare. 8,000 whole bottles. Meanwhile, there's that new startup down the road on the other side of town, on the southwest side of town, Southwest Houston Distilling Company, whoever the fuck they are. They're like, yeah, we make 1,000 bottles a year. They're rare and unusual. I'm the factory motherfucker who's shitting on those guys. I become the guy. I become the bad guy. I become the evil empire. I don't mind being the evil empire. I aspire to be the evil empire. I look towards a day when I can look back at the small guys and go, I've been there. I see what you're doing. Let me help you. Let me help you. Let me help you grow. Let me help you build your. Let me give you tips and pointers. Let me introduce you to my distributor. Let me let you talk to people. Let me help you out. Help grow the whole industry so that we can have as many distilleries in the state of Texas as they have in Scotland. When Scotland has a tenth of the population of the state of Texas. When the city of Houston has the same population as the country of Scotland. And we should have as many distilleries in the city of Houston as they have in Scotland, because you really should support local. You really should go to your local bars, your local breweries, your local distilleries, and you really should enjoy their entertainment and throw their darts and listen to their music and tip their bands. But instead, you go to some fucking bar that's just some fucking Kentucky outpost that sells all the same shit that everybody else sells. You don't fucking support local any more than anybody else does. When you go to Walmart, oh, I support local. No, you don't. Fuck you. Do I sound salty? Do I sound a little salty? Sometimes I feel salty. Any hoodles. 20 bottles from a single cask, exciting. We're weird cousins. Bruzel is the kid touching uncles. I'm gonna climb down off my soapbox, read chat for a while. We're gonna have fun. Enough of me. More of you. I'll be in Houston sometime this winter. My sister-in-law pops out her crotch brood. Come visit me. My tasting room's going to be open to the public starting in November. If the electrician comes this weekend, I will have that fully paneled. We'll have lights. We'll have walls. Everything. The tasting room will be fully functional. Hopefully by the beginning of November, maybe a week later, but definitely by Thanksgiving. So come visit. Yes, say hi. Absolutely. I will open the place up just for you. You come see me. We'll sit down. We'll talk. I'll pull out the table. We'll record a podcast session. Whatever you want to do. We'll talk. Let's do a thing. Absolutely. I generally like Texas whiskey, and I've had some of the fancy ass Garrison Brothers, which was good. Stupid overpriced. Yes, very stupid overpriced. Small batch was shit. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's we're getting our sea legs. We're still getting our sea legs, and Garrison is one of those guys that's still getting his sea legs. Some of them are better than others. I've had some really good stuff that they make. They make really good stuff. We all make really good stuff. It's just figuring out what stuff is good and what stuff is bad. It's hard to do. Because I've had some Texas whiskey. I'm not gonna lie. I've had some Texas whiskey that tastes like ass. It tastes like warm summer ass. And it's not the good kind. Yeah. That's some bad stuff. But that happens. I've also had some bad shit from Colorado, Kentucky, California, New York, Illinois, West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I haven't had bad stuff from New Mexico. I've had good stuff from New Mexico. I've only had one brand from New Mexico. Arizona, South Dakota, Nebraska, Wyoming. Was it Wyoming or Wisconsin? Wisconsin. It was Wisconsin, not Wyoming. One of those W states up there in the fucking tundras. I've had good stuff from all of these states, but I've also had bad stuff from all of these states. There's a million distilleries in Kentucky, and 5% of them, 5% of the shit that comes out of Kentucky is good. Just like 5% of the stuff that comes out of Texas is good. I mean, that's, it's well, probably 20%. 20% of the stuff that comes out of any distillery is good. That's the point. That, you get the stuff that's average and above average. And every now and then you get the shit that's below average. And that's like half of the shit that's below average. Average is half. It's not a value statement. It's just that, half the time you eat at Subway, it's mediocre. That's what it is. Half the time it's mediocre, a third of the time it's great, and a third of the time it's terrible. That's the distribution curve. If you have not had a bad meal at Subway, then you're tempting fate every time you go because it's going to happen. And about a third of the time, it's going to be terrible. Iron Root is past. I mean, personal flavor, personal preference. That's no value judgment there. If you think Iron Root's past them, you think Iron Root's past them. There's a lot. Like I was saying, there's a lot of distilleries, and some of them make better stuff. But Garrison Brothers has the marketing. They have the preference of the first. They have that pole position. They have that ability to be able to, they have that supremacy on the market of being first. We were first, and they have a few good months of being first before other people joined them. They can go out there and they say we were the first legal distillery in the first legal whiskey distillery in the state of Texas. That's got marketing charm all over it. I mean, I could say I'm the only legal distillery in Harris County, but that's not true. I used to be the only legal distillery in Humble, but that's not true. I'm no longer in Humble proper. So, I can say I'm the oldest legal distillery in Humble. Say that in the Humble metro area. Whatever. I assume this was a thread. You assume this was a threat. Threat. I got you. The email I sent to Garrison's is your whiskey supposed to taste like fresh clay dirt was added to bourbon? Jesus Christ. I'm pretty sure this music is called Cost Suicide. This music? What? Oh, when I went to that. Yeah. When I went to get water and the bathroom. Be somewhat fair. If you're truly selling globally, I guess 1,500 bottles can be rare. Yeah. Joe will not be humble when he's the new Buffalo. I will not be humble. The only thing humble about us is the fucking name of our company. I am fucking proud of my goddamn whiskey. It is fucking delicious. Even the worst batch that I produced this year is fucking delicious. It's good whiskey. 140 distilleries in Houston. It would be wild. 140 distilleries in Houston. It would absolutely be wild. If people supported local, we could do it. We could absolutely. Hell, I'd be happy with 35 distilleries in the city of Houston. We have 2 in Humble. 2 in Humble. And Humble's only 15,000 people. We have 7 breweries in the Humble area. 7 breweries. 7. We used to have 8. But one of them closed down because of the pandemic. Insane. You've never said you support local. I love you, Dustin. You crack me up so much. Subway, great. Yeah, it is what it is. Iron Root has done more to market themselves than Garrison. A lot of the new distilleries have done a lot to market themselves. They're well funded, and a lot of that funding is going to marketing their brand. So, with any business, it doesn't matter how good your product is. if nobody knows how good your product is. So, arguably, not demonstrably, arguably, Microsoft's the original operating system, DOS, was not as good as Apple's original operating system, the graphic user interface, the GUI interface. This is going way back, early 90s, way back, early 80s, way back in time. So, arguably, this is the lesson to learn in business world. It doesn't necessarily mean having a better product does not necessarily mean you're going to be more successful. Steve Jobs was very protective of his hardware, very protective of his software. He wanted to design computers that were aesthetically pleasing and worked well with his software and all the stuff. Like he wanted to build the Apple Garden before building the garden was a thing you were supposed to do. Microsoft, on the other hand, was like, sure, we'll give it to IBM. We'll put our dick in anything, whatever. They didn't fucking care. It's the idiocracy rule. Morons will fuck anything, but the smart people, they don't have a whole lot of babies, right? So Apple arguably had the better operating system. It was more stable. It was less viral, less threat from viruses, less virus friendly. It was more pleasant to the eye. It was easier to operate. It was like everything about it was better. But Microsoft was like, yeah, you can use it, sure, whatever. They made it open to everybody. So it was easier to program with, it was easier to make games with, it was easier to add to more computers. You could take those computers with open platforms and make better computers. You could do more, better stuff using Microsoft's operating system. And that's not to say it was better, it's just to say that they were more flexible, more able to be used, more accessible to the people, better marketing. So, who became the dominant platform throughout the 80s and into the 90s? But arguably, the better platform, the graphic user interface. In fact, the platform that was so good that it got copied by the dominant platform. It went from DOS to Windows 3.1, Windows 2, Windows 3.1, Windows 98, Windows, all the iterations of Windows that we have up to this day. Open up your computer, graphic user interface. Pioneered by Apple. Way back in the day. So it's not necessarily having a better product, but it's having a good marketing team. And a lot of the new distilleries they're well financed, they're well funded, they're investments by investment firms, they're projects from existing distillers who've decided to open up their own shop and connected with an investment firm, angel investor, an investment partner who's financed the project. They say, we want to have a distillery, let's go get a distiller. I can think of 3 distilleries off the top of my head that I know of in Texas that have done this. That it's not a distillery per se. It's not somebody like, I want to start a distillery. It's not Jack Daniels in 1842 going, I want to start a distillery. We're going to do a distillery. It's Black or Pearlstone or whoever the fuck the investment firm is saying, we want to invest in a distillery. Here's $2.5 million. Go find a fucking distiller. Get a CEO and a distiller. And they hire somebody to run the company, and they bring in a distiller from some company that already exists. They say, you're the assistant, you want to be head? Yep, come on. Boom. And they set up shop in San Antonio. They buy a bunch of MGP. They build their stuff. They build up their inventory. And the plan is to sell them off to individual owners after 5 or 10 years. The plan is not to run a distillery. The plan is to sell an asset that is a distillery. Let them go public. Sell it to Brown Forman. Sell it to Diageo. Sell it to one of the consolidators. That's the plan. The same plan that was in existence with the growth of radio, the growth of TV, the growth of internet. You plant a company, you sell it to a consolidator. That's the plan for a lot of these companies. They're well marketed, they have good financing, they have good PR, and they make a big splash. They're using MGP. With nothing wrong with using MGP. I don't have any problem with using MGP. Penelope's done it turned themselves into $1 million corporation, multi-million-dollar corporation. Jesus, I use it too. New companies do it. That help to supplement their production. You can only make so much. You get orders for 50 cases, you can only make 20. You got to get 30 cases somewhere. I have no problem with it. None whatsoever. I do have a problem with investment firms starting companies specifically to sell them. They are taking a spot. If a consolidator wants to come up and buy a true craft distillery, they're taking a spot for a real craft distillery. They're taking some mom and pop payday out of their pocket. I mean, my ambition, my goal is to build a company that my kids and grandkids can run from the board. You know, we have a company, they're on the board of regents, board of managers, board of trustees, whatever. They, mail it in to their board meetings twice a year. They're fine. That's my ambition. That's what I want to do. I don't want to sell to MGP. I don't want to sell to Diageo. I don't want to sell to Heaven's Hill. I don't want to sell to any of these companies. I want to have a distillery that's truly independent that grows over the course of the next 100 years. Long after I'm dead. Long after I'm dead and gone. People who I have never even met, generations from now, will recline in the shade of trees that have been planted. Trees whose shade I have never relaxed under. That's my ambition. That's what I want to do with this company. Not sell to Diageo. Although, that said, they make really big dump trucks. And if they back up a big enough dump truck full of cash, I will fucking sell in a heartbeat. Because you know what you can do when you got $10 million in fucking cash and you got no goddamn bills? Whatever the fuck you want. That's what you do. I start another goddamn distillery. I start another fucking nationwide distribution fucking distillery. Using the experience that I gained from Old Humble and the $10 million cash from some fucking, I don't know, French company, whatever. Yeah. Do whatever the fuck you want. We'll make just rye whiskey. We'll make just cask strength whiskey. All we do, we'll call ourselves the Old 112. And all of our whiskey will be 112 proof. That'd be a fucking trip. I could sell everything at a loss because it'd be for tax purposes, and I could fuck everybody around. It'd be all like, yeah, we'll sell our whiskey at $12 a bottle, and I'll lose $6 on every single bottle. Take that. everybody. Because, for tax purposes, I need to lose $10,000 a year. All right, guys. That's it. My whiskey's gone. We've talked. We've done it. We're gone. It is what, 1 o'clock? Almost 2. Jesus. I was going to be here till 11. Y'all kept me around late. Shame on you. Scotland produces 1.6 billion bottles of whiskey a year. Fuck that. Houston can produce 1.6 billion and export it to China. We can do that. 140 or we riot. Well, that's what we'll call it. When I get my $10 million payday, we'll call the distillery the old 140. The new distillery. The old 140. All right, boys. It has been fun. Every Wednesday night. Have we not had chat? Oh, I just closed it. Every Wednesday night is always a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoy these shows. I thoroughly enjoy doing my Wednesday night shows. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for listening to me rant. Thanks for listening to me talk. Thanks for listening to me participating and joining me in the chat conversation. It's been fun. It's been truly fun. Like, subscribe, become a member, do all the stuff. Special thanks to our 2,471. Or is it 2? 2,470 even. Wow. We've lost a member or a subscriber. Fuck you to that guy. Fuck that guy. Might be Burzel. This has been a show almost entirely about whiskey. This has been fun. I like talking about whiskey. It's fun. Although, you kind of start repeating things. So we may not do this next week. I think between now and then, we're going to probably do a show perfecting the Bloody Mary. Making the truly perfect Bloody Mary. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, thank you for joining me tonight. Be awesome to each other. Continue to be awesome to each other. And have a great night. We'll see you next time. Next time we go live, which should be in a couple of days. Cheers. Have a great night. This has been an award-winning production. Special thanks to our super fans, Mr. Jiggs and William Hall. Until next time, good night.